Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
You know something? When I say to people where I was born, the village of Lowton, they say, where on earth is that?
In Essex,
Well, when I was born, it was in the constituency of Makerfield. But as a result of boundary changes, it later went into Lee. So we've got this major by-election coming up. Just to remind everybody, we're going to talk about the by-election on the show because we can when the by-election itself starts. Unbelievably, Ofcom regulations mean that we can't talk about it, which is just frustrates me no end. But very, very quickly, just to say to you that every single ward in Makerfield at the last local elections was won by Reform. Josh Simons won the seat for the Labour Party with just 5,000 majority. Now, Andy Burnham may well win the by-election if he's allowed to run, but he may well lose. And I'll tell you something else. I think Reform are on to win the mayoralty of Greater Manchester. Of course, the irony is, if Reform win Makerfield, then Andy Burnham will probably stay on as Mayor of Greater Manchester. So ideally what they want to do is lose and then go for the mayoralty of Greater Manchester. Somebody said to me, what do you reckon Nigel Farage is going to do? Run a full election in Makerfield or personally fund Britain's independent nuclear deterrent? Because they're going to cost about the same amount. Anyway, we are going to talk about that on the show. I did just want to mention it. But I also wanted to talk at the start of the show about this royal visit to Golders Green. Look, royal visits happen all the time. There's thousands of them every year. Not all of them with the King, less so now because he's slightly ill. But it was noticeable that in Golders Green, people were really jumping for joy, cock-a-hoop. They were all sort of climbing over each other or whatever. And what was really striking to see on the TV was, first of all, them sing, the Jewish people sing God Save the King. Also, there was, you know, the usual types who want to show off a little bit were doing the Hebrew prayer to the King, which apparently they do at the start of everything in synagogue, but normally do it in English. But it was striking the way that people seemed to have taken the view, A, that it was a huge shot in the arm for the Jewish community, but B, it was also proof that he was opposed to anti-Semitism. And I think finally, we've seen so much apathy towards British patriotism. There is no doubt that those guys in Golders Green, whether they were the full trip ultra-Orthodox Jews or people who just walked around in normal clothes or whatever, they were all well up for it.
It was also a shot in the arm for the monarchy, because people go, what's the use in the monarchy? Well, it's for this exact reason. When you have a rogue government like we have at the moment, authoritarian type governments, this is what you need a monarchy for. Fascism always takes over in places where, and this sort of communism takes over in places where they don't have royal families, which is like an anchor for the country. So it shows how important.
Why? I mean, look, we are going to. Sorry. Andy Burnham was just running down my dad's street on the BBC.
Tell your phone your dad.
Yeah, okay. Right, okay. I was going to go to Daniel Carmel Brown, who's the CEO of Jewish Care, because that's what the King was here to see. But before we do go to Daniel, Asher, I just want to ask you one question. Why is it that patriotism is so strong amongst the Jewish community? Because they have been let down by this country recently.
Well, yeah, I mean, it goes. I mean, obviously, the Duke of Edinburgh was his mother actually saved a few people in the Holocaust, yeah. And he went to that school which was founded by a Jewish refugee, and he admired, some of these people. And Charles does as well. He has and people know that in the Jewish community there is a sort of quite a strong there always has been. pretty much, with some of the members of the royal family. Not all, though.
Anyway, we're being indulgent here, me talking about the by-election, Asher being able to talk about his own experience as a Jewish person, but the King was not there to see either of us. He was there in Golders Green to visit Jewish Care and other organisations. The CEO of Jewish Care is Daniel Carmel Brown. Well, Daniel, you've heard what I've had to say about all of this. What was your impression of the visit?
Well, let me first of all start by saying it was a very, very special visit for Jewish Care, but also for the whole Jewish community. The monarch had reached out and asked to come and meet with all those people that have been affected by the recent attacks in Golders Green, and he had the amazing opportunity to meet personally with the 2 victims who were stabbed on the high street just a couple of weeks ago, and talk to those organisations who have responded so amazingly to support the local community. So it's very, very special.
What is Jewish Care?
So Jewish Care is the Jewish community's largest health and social care organisation, working with mainly older people, people with mental health illnesses. We support Holocaust survivors. We have residential care homes, day services, social work services, and we provide probably the biggest range of services to the Jewish community in the UK.
And I'll hand over to Asher, because no doubt he's got a lot to ask you about today's visit. But obviously you met the King today. So first of all, highly unusual for him to write to ask to come and see you. Normally what would happen is the Lord Lieutenant would suggest places, but I understand it's an unusual situation. So he writes to you, you agree to do it, and then when he sees you, one would assume that he did want to at least have some discussion about serious issues and make it more than a photo op. Did he? And what happened?
He was very generous with his time, actually. From the moment he walked into our building, it was very clear that he wanted to meet with everybody with real empathy, reach out to them and ask them what their experience had been recently. In particular, of course, the 2 stabbing victims, but also those around the community that have been rallying around to support everybody. And he spoke to everybody for as long as they wanted to, reaching out to ask them how they had experienced the last few weeks and months, and also, gave them a lot of comfort. In fact, in the case of the victims who were stabbed, he wished them, blessings of healing from himself personally, which was very special for them.
And what sort of stories have they got? Because we had a caller called Mendy in Stamford Hill, and he says he gets anti-Semitic attacks because obviously I don't look it, but if you dress up in the hat or whatever garb, people know you're Jewish. Then this guy was saying he gets it 3 or 4 times a week. Now, obviously, maybe you get it less in Golders Green, but what are their experiences about going out of that area? Do they get problems regularly?
I think it's a real mixed perspective, Asher. I think there's a lot of people that are feeling very uncomfortable given the rise in anti-Semitism across the UK and indeed across the world. On the other hand, it doesn't stop Jews living their lives. And if you walk through Golders Green today, you would have seen the crowds of hundreds, if not thousands of people, living their Jewish lives very proudly in support of the monarch who come to visit them. And it hasn't stopped them living their Jewish lives.
And he does have a link with the Jewish community, Prince Charles, well, King Charles as he is
King
now.
Prince Charles.
King Prince Charles. And like I was saying, the Duke of Edinburgh and even the Duke of Edinburgh's mother, who saved, Holocaust people who would have been victims of the Holocaust, but she saved. So there is like quite a strong history that a lot of people don't know about, going back a long way.
Indeed. In fact, you can talk to many Jewish organisations who can tell you about the royal patronages that they have and visits from the royal family over many years. I've been very privileged over my time at Jewish Care to welcome a whole range of members of the royal family, including William and Camilla. But today really does top it all. To have the monarch come to visit the Jewish community in this way is very special.
And just a matter of interest, just for me, and apologies, I'm kind of on my own surround a little bit here, but on our screens a second ago, we saw the King being presented with some plaited bread.
A challah.
What is the purpose of that? Because obviously this was, quite not a prized possession, but clearly that's quite important as a gift. Can you explain why?
It's about £6 in Carmel.
Indeed. So the visit to Jewish Care was to meet people and to have the opportunity to talk to individuals that have been impacted by what had happened. But afterwards, very graciously, the King spent a good kind of 20 minutes, 25 minutes walking the neighbourhood. Yeah. And as part of that walk, we introduced him to the owner of the bakery next door to the Jewish Care building, at which point the owner's children presented the King with chalot, This is the special bread that we eat on Shabbat. Obviously, it's Friday tomorrow. It's when we eat the bread. And it's baked normally on a Thursday, and so it's the best time to buy it. So it was a great presentation from the owner's children to him.
I might get hungry now.
And just a matter of interest. How does this change things in Golders Green? Because look, symbolism. It would seem to me, and forgive me, I'm talking as somebody who is of Irish descent, not of Jewish descent, but it seems to me that people looking at this now, the situation in Golders Green, the situation in Manchester, the fact that it's acceptable to shout abuse at Jewish people down the street, the fact that there's hate marches, the fact that people can openly say on TV, I do not accept the Jewish people's right to self-determination. All of those things. You look at that and see it as symbolism similar to the 1930s in Germany. And so what is the symbolism of the king coming? Does that make a difference? In my mind, it would have a profound difference.
It's a confidence
if it was me.
It gives the community confidence, I think, doesn't it?
It makes an enormous difference. I wrote an article last week for one of the Jewish papers where I talked about how actually I noticed a big change since the stabbings in Golders Green, that more and more people were reaching out to me, to my community, to my organisation to demonstrate their support from all walks of life, all faiths and none, and all communities around the country and around the world. And I wrote an article talking about the fact that this cannot be just a moment of sympathy. It has to be the beginning of a change, a movement that actually moves towards wiping out anti-Semitism. Now, we have a long way to go. But these actions, these symbolic actions of a monarch coming to demonstrate his solidarity with our community are incredibly meaningful, not just for the Jewish community, I should say, for the local community and for British society.
Well, I was going to say that. This isn't... I mean, there's been attacks before, these synagogue attacks and the ambulance attacks. Of course, there's been horrendous, where there's been multiple deaths attacked at 7-7 in Manchester Arena, well, all over, Borough Market, and people still aren't linking up. This is all the same problem. And people aren't linking that. They're going, oh, it's an anti-Semitism. But everyone knows how this goes. When you look at Iran or any other country, we know how this ends. So people need to join the dots.
These are attacks on British society, and everyone that you speak to in the Jewish community would say the same thing. And we all have this challenge to face.
I just want to ask you about the anti-Semitism legislation, which was roughly sketched out in the King's speech. We haven't got the detail yet, so it's clear we can't comment in any great detail. It seems to me that this central idea of saying your organisation is a proxy for Iran, therefore we are able to ban your organisation on that basis. I see that as sensible. But the fundamental problem, as far as I'm concerned, is that we are allowing our asylum system to be dominated by people from the Islamic world who simply are coming here in order to make Britain a Muslim country. And I think that we have to grasp that nettle and be honest about that. What's your impression of this legislation?
I have a slightly different perspective on this because, of course, Jewish Care is a care organisation for the Jewish community, but we employ over 1,300 people from across the world to deliver care and support to one community. And I think in many ways we're a beacon, we're an example to the rest of society about how we can live together, work together and support communities together. The legislation obviously is very important, and I know that many of my colleagues in the Jewish community who lead other organisations have been campaigning for these changes. Sure. I was privileged to be part of the forum last week at Downing Street on tackling anti-Semitism. I sat with members of the NHS and other social care organisations talking about the impact of anti-Semitism in that sphere, which is no different to any other sphere of society. But as I said before... Well,
it's worse in the medical. It seems proportionately worse in hospitals.
Well, I can tell you from our social workers that they tell me stories of Jewish people who do not declare their Jewishness in hospital because they are afraid of being outed.
And they have been. People have had trouble because they're Jewish in the NHS.
And that's not the society that we want to live in.
No. And so what have you had at your Jewish... What was the celebration for? You've had a beautiful new ballroom built or something at the centre, like Donald Trump? What was the celebration about?
No, there was no celebration today. This was the King coming to see our community, and we were very privileged to have him with us.
Did you at least have a plaque for him to do or something?
No, we didn't even do that. I have to be honest with you. I thought about it, but actually... he was very clear that what he wanted to do was talk to the people that were impacted by what had happened. That's what he wanted to spend.
So it was sort of an informal, nice, warm meeting.
Very informal, very warm.
How was he? Was he nice? Was he? He's got a good sense of humour, hasn't he? He's quite a warm guy.
Funny man, you see.
You got any funny anecdotes?
Well,
I know you're not meant to tell.
Probably not that I should share on television, I'm afraid. But I
loved it. He treated me to his favourite sexist jokes. No, I'm joking.
That's Philip.
I'm joking.
Yeah.
Let me just ask you this question very quickly, Daniel, as you shift uncomfortably about declaring what the King said to you in private. I just want to understand a bit more about Jewish care, because you have to understand that most people watching and listening to this, are not Jewish, but B, actually don't live in areas where there's a large number of Jewish people. So presumably there are very specific care needs for Jewish people related to things like food, related to if they die, their funeral being quite quick, and all those sorts of things. What are the specifics of those that you deal with on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, of course. So if you take, for example, the residential homes that we run, these are very important places for Jews to be together, to be able to eat kosher food, for example, to celebrate the Sabbath, Shabbat, and all the Jewish festivals that happen throughout the year. And like every other community, to be able to kind of acknowledge their cultural sensitivities. We provide that for the Jewish community like others do for their communities.
Yeah, I think I've actually been there. It's quite... I had a mate, because it's not just older people, it's people like me, the youth. Because I had a mate...
Yeah,
he was like the youngest guy in there. I think he'd had a heart bypass, all right, to Damien. He was living up there. So I went to see him, and it's actually a really lovely place. It's got like a whole...
Oh, so it's
you
kind
get your own sort of flats in there, don't you?
It's kind of part hospital. The various...
It's like flats.
But there are various facilities. What is it? Some hospice, some old people, some respite care, and some community.
Sprinkling, yeah.
We provide a range of services and facilities to the whole community, including those that are living with mental ill health as well.
Right.
So it wouldn't surprise me to hear you say you met some younger people in our services, which you would have done at some time.
Yeah, and he was,
and when you talk about
a mate of mine. Like,
just very quickly, when you talk about mental health, I mean, clearly there's a big difference between low-level mental health, PTSD, and residential care. I do understand that. But in terms of mental health, I asked this question the other day. And the answer, I'll tell you the question I asked, and I'll tell you the answer that came back. If I was a kid and I had to go to school passing an armed guard with razor wire on the fences around me, I said I felt I'd be quite traumatised. And what somebody else said was, well, if that's all you'd ever done and all your mates had ever done, you think it's normal, which I think is fair enough. But what effect of recent incidents, what effect does that have on the mental health of the Jewish community, of people within it?
I can tell you that we have an entire service, it's called JAMIE, the Jewish Association for Mental Illness, that sits as part of Jewish Care. The demand for those services has increased dramatically since the 7th of October.
Yeah.
Because of the rise in anti-Semitism in the UK, we have had to respond to that for young people, for adults, for older people. It has had a very dramatic impact. People are much more...
They're traumatised, aren't they? Some people
are traumatised. You're right, they're traumatised by what's happened, and therefore the support we provide them becomes even more important.
And I'm talking at the moment clearly to two British people who are clearly pretty patriotic, given the delight that you've had in the King coming. But the reality is, a lot of Jewish people now are thinking that the Jewish life in Britain is coming to an end. Are you optimistic or pessimistic?
I'm not in that camp, I'm afraid. I am optimistic.
Well, no, that's good.
Well, I think today really was a pivot point in that, wasn't it? People were thinking, I've got to move now with my kids. I think people now might say, oh, maybe there's a chance of changing things.
I don't share that view. I think for the vast majority of the Jewish community, it's neither practical nor affordable for them to think about leaving this country. And I have to say...
Yeah, but sometimes you have to. I mean, look what happened in Germany. You have to.
When people look at where they can go today, what are people's options? It's not as simple as it may have been.
Well, Israel, it's more simple in a way, because they have Israel, which they didn't have in
for some people, that's always going to be the choice, of course. But there are nearly 300,000 Jews in the UK, And I suspect in 10, 15, 20 years' time, there will be a similar, if not a larger number of Jews in the UK, because, of course, there is a booming community in some parts of London and Manchester.
How do older people see it? You know, obviously, there's some old people that experienced the Holocaust. Maybe they were very young, but are they saying this is coming back again? You know, a lot of them are obviously traumatised by their experience as children. Are you seeing any of that?
Look, the most complicated service that we run is a Holocaust Survivor Centre for people that have survived the Holocaust. There are still many of them still alive, thankfully, and I talk to them regularly. And when I ask them how they are feeling, they do tell me that for some of them, it brings back very, very painful reminders of what it was like to grow up in Europe in the 1930s and 40s, and for some of them to have lived through living in concentration camps and extermination camps. So when they see what is going on in the world today, it is very, very painful for them. Having said that, when they come to our facilities, it's a place of life and joy. And that is what we are here to do, to provide experiences that are positive and uplifting.
But it must be, Daniel, it must be extremely and particularly upsetting if you are, you know, a 95-year-old Holocaust survivor who got out of the camps, got to Britain, you know, did all that thing. I watched the Windermere Children. I couldn't believe that it was largely true. You know, that series about them all coming from concentration camps and living in the Lake District. But they've seen that. They've lived in Britain. They've had good times. They've had bad times. Obviously, the only people you see on the TV are the people that had the best times ever. But obviously, most people are completely normal. But to see at the end of their lives that hatred that was part of the beginning of their lives but didn't exist in the middle, that must be extremely worrying.
It's worrying, but I think they're also realistic about the fact that it comes from a small minority of people in this country, and that they are overwhelmed by the support they get from the vast majority of people in the United Kingdom. I can tell you that many of them still continue to go and give their talks in schools and colleges and university campuses to try and educate people about the experience that they had. And they get an incredibly warm reception. I
think the most incredible thing, and I'm hoping, fingers crossed, this will work. I heard that there was a project to attempt to take all of the interviews of Holocaust survivors and using AI allow school children to actually talk to them. Now, look, I'm sure that will be possible at some point, but the sooner the better. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, the testimonies of these people are incredibly valuable, and there is a lot of work being done to make sure we capture them whilst these people are alive.
It's the last of them now.
Well, I've said before, when I was doing aid work in Ukraine, what was remarkable was going to a high school, seeing all the refugees coming in, and somebody saying this was the actual high school where all of the Jewish refugees were rounded up for the first quote-unquote test of the Belzec death centre. And you think, wow, to think about the way that we are still in a position where people are running for their lives in that way.
Listen, I've worked for this organisation for 30 years. I can tell you what inspired me. It was a visit to Poland when I went round Auschwitz-Birkenau, Majdanek, and various other camps in Poland, and I came back and decided to dedicate my life to rebuilding Jewish life in Europe, in particular in the UK. I've had the privilege of doing that for the last 30 years, and I hope I continue to do it for another 30 years.
Well, Daniel, congratulations on today. Asher?
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. That's Daniel Carmel Brown, CEO of Jewish Care, talking about Charles III's visit to Golders Green. 03444 499 1000. Give us a ring about anything you want to talk about. But next, coming up, we're going to talk to Professor Garrett Wallace-Brown, Professor of Political Theory and Global Health Policy, about the WHO, not the band with Roger Daltrey or Pete Townsend. No, the WHO medical organisation, and who controls them and where do they get their funding. More about that after this.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yeah,
okay, well, we've had a good conversation in the break over Damien, who is apparently a former lawyer.
No, he's in between a lawyer. He's not quite qualified.
Hey, I'll tell you what I discovered the other day. Do you remember? Do you remember the Curzon Massive? Do you remember the Curzon Massive? Get on me, boss, with the day saver, smoke the reefer in the corner, lay it low. Right, one of them now is a solicitor's clerk. The other one is in prison for attempted murder. The Curzon Massive.
Well, do you remember Musical Youth?
So MC Mac is the solicitor's assistant. Little Kev is in prison. We don't know what happened to Ginger Joe.
MC Rhymes, the only rap that bites?
No.
He was from Rush Home. I used to.
Really?
The only rap that bites. Anyway, look.
Tell you what, it gets to midnight, you do rush home, don't you?
You do. I had to rush home once from there, being chased by a couple of crackheads.
Hey, I'll tell you what, you're talking about Jewish people. I had a friend of mine, and he lived in Rush Home, but before he went to Manchester University, he'd been in Israeli Special Forces. You know, some of those people who train for a year because they want to get in the best units to do the military service. Oh, I'll tell you what, 6 lads followed him back from Manchester University and jumped him in Rush Home. I'll tell you what, he had to pretend it wasn't him, right? They were all badly injured.
Well, they do that Krav Maga, don't they?
Oh, he was, I'll tell you what.
You get really hurt.
He was hard as nails, that lad. Anyway, let's talk about this hantavirus because people have been asking about it. You know what? You're not going to believe this, Asher. We just heard from the gallery. Somebody's been saying that hanta means fake in Hebrew. Therefore, there's a conspiracy theory.
I mean, why don't you just call it the rat virus? You know what I mean? I mean, how serious is this? Some people are saying humans can't really catch it from each other, and some are saying, well, and what happens to you?
Here's what upsets me. We've got a guest on now who's going to talk all about this. But here's what upsets me. We talked previously on this show about the vaccine for coronavirus, where they said it's 100% safe 100% of the time, which is fine, but you have to be right when you say that.
Which they were.
Otherwise, what happens is you undermine the entire vaccine system forever.
Which they have, and this isn't like the MMR one, which wasn't true. This was actually true. A lot of people have suffered very serious side effects of, well, obviously death included, and that's a lot of people around the world, and there was a lot of cover-ups. And so would people now, if they were told to take a vaccine, even if it was good, take it? And we've got Professor Garrett Wallace-Brown to talk to us. He's a professor of political theory and global health policy to talk to us about that, and generally about the WHO, the World Health Organization.
So my first question to you, Professor Wallace, is this. We know that fake doctor, Dr. Tedros, not a real medical doctor. We know that Dr. Tedros, not a real medical doctor, lied about the fact there was no human-to-human spread of coronavirus. We know that he has prioritised protecting the reputation of Xi Jinping over the protection of the people of the world during coronavirus. Why should we believe a word the World Health Organization says?
Well, there are a lot of good people who do a lot of good things at the WHO, and there's a lot of knowledgeable people at the WHO. Tedros has a political position at the WHO, and one of his main mandates is to further the interests of the WHO. That's not entirely surprising. Some of his behavior doing that is questionable, and I think people have exposed that in some places and called it the question in others.
But they're in China's pocket, aren't they? So, you know, he might be doing it for the WHO, but the WHO are doing it for China, like the cover-up of the coronavirus outbreak.
I mean, the WHO has a lot of vested interest, and a lot of people have a lot of influence in the WHO. China may be one of those players that has influence in the WHO, but there's a lot of people who have influence, largely through the way that they finance the WHO and the way they specify the funding for the WHO, and that automatically sets the agenda. Whether or not that's, benevolent or malicious or has some sort of strategy behind it, it doesn't matter. It's the fact that those funds can be allocated in a certain way for a certain program, And therefore, the WHO will have to, as a matter of survival, whether or not it's Tedros or whoever's running it, will have to follow those funding streams because it's specified funding for exactly that program.
Can we get to just do the basics? Because I feel we've gone in big, too big to start with, and we could kind of roll back a little bit. You know, we have a view here, and our viewers and listeners have a view that they feel very let down by international organisations. You know, you look at, as an example, the European Union. It's supposed to be about cooperation in Europe. In the end, they're regulating banana size. Whatever you think about that, it doesn't seem very worthwhile. Then you have Oxfam and the Sex for Food programme. Give us your child and we'll give you some grain in Haiti. And the fact that, look, you know, every institution gets infiltrated by bad people, but the fact that diplomatic immunity is not lifted for these people and their international organisations are not going to help. Then you might even have the Catholic Church in the past or whatever. And then we get to World Health Organization, and I think people are remarkably sceptical of it. What does the World Health Organization do on a daily basis? And should we be as sceptical about it as perhaps we are?
I mean, I think it's very fair for people to feel that some of these international organizations have drifted away from their original mandates or have drifted away from the interest of their member states. I think that's a completely fair criticism. And when they do so, they lose legitimacy. And when they do so, they also lose a certain amount of accountability. So I think these international organizations should be held to account, that they have a certain remit that they were put in place to do. And that when they fail to do that, or when they are swayed and drift away from their mandate by the way they're funded, or
but they're not really swayed. I mean, you say some of them. All these international organisations have been captured by a particular type of people, and if you don't think the way they do, you're out the game. And it's got to such a saturation point now. Everywhere is infiltrated. I mean, we've seen America saying we've got to pull out of all these post-World War II organisations because they've all changed their. They've all been captured. So isn't that just basically happened across with the UN, the EU, and is all this funding being driven from very high up people? I mean, we saw in America and China were sort of came together for this gene editing thing that they think may have led to the virus, the COVID virus. So there's a few questions.
Let me put it this way. There is a legitimacy crisis of many global institutions, and that's not to say that there shouldn't be those institutions, you know, highly tailored, specialized mandates to do certain things that are collective action problems that are global common goods for all states. So what does the WHO do that we might want them to do? Well, they do collect data, they do standardize that data, and that was of interest to the UK, would be interest to the United States. In the DRC, for example, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, there wouldn't be a malaria program if it wasn't for the WHO, because they just simply don't have the capacity to do that. Now, you may say, well, what do we care about that? Well, you know, there's some moral imperatives there.
No, I think you raise an interesting point and a fair point. I think most people would say that if what we're doing is preventing malaria in the Democratic Republic of Congo, most of us would want to pay money towards that. I think sometimes, and I'm not saying you're accusing us of this, I think sometimes there's a feeling that we're all completely against international organisations or indeed any form of overseas aid. I think the concern is you end up in a situation sometimes with the North Korean feta cheese incident where somebody sent over a consignment to feed the poor of North Korea, and it was delicious, and it was handed out to the most loyal soldiers, i.e. those people most willing to kill the starving protesters.
Yeah, I mean, let's get down to the brass tacks with the WHO and what the big problem is with it. The big problem is about 80% of its funding. That means its budget, its operating budget, what it can do comes from what's called specified voluntary funding. And that funding is when a particular agent, whether that is a state like Germany or an individual organization like Gates, they specify how that money needs to be spent. Now, you tell me any organization out there that could operate with 80% of its budget being specified for earmarked projects that wouldn't have a major impact on its agenda, the way the agenda is implemented, and the outcomes of that agenda. Now, this used to be the other way around. It used to be that 80% of the WHO's funding came from assessed contributions from states. States are the members.
But just to be clear,
now it's flipped completely.
Hang on, just to be clear on that, there could be two reasons for that. Reason number one could be that the contribution from states has decreased, or it could be the overall budget has increased. When you say 20%, if you see what I mean, is that a lower figure than the 80% was before? If you see what I mean, because as an example, it could be that instead of spending £1, they're now spending £10.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. No, the overall budget over time has increased for the WHO as a whole. Most international organizations have seen
but that increase has principally been within the...
Anyway, we've got to take a little breaky, but we'll be back. Professor staying with us. That's Professor Garrett Wallace-Brown talking about the WHO's Professor of Political Theory and Global Health Policy. 03444991000 if you want to ask anything or talk about anything after the Professor. We'll be back after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is the late with RJ Walker.
What's happening, man?
Gould. I just put that bag of swizzles in my mouth, and I've had to spit them all over the table. That is embarrassing. OK, well, we were talking about the World Health Organization and whether it is fit for purpose with Professor Garrett Wallace-Brown. It's his first appearance on the show, so...
It's going really well so far.
No doubt he'll have been deeply impressed that I've just spat out a load of sweets before the show. Do you know, we were talking before the break about these international organisations and the fact that, as an example, the International Whaling Commission still continues to operate despite the fact that whaling has been banned throughout the world and everybody's observing the ban. In fact, the guy who set it up has argued for it to be shut down, and its own staff have said it must continue. The work of stopping non-existent whaling must continue. But what you said, I thought, Professor, was quite interesting, that actually, in a sense, some of these institutions need to be more independent, and that the World Health Organization, because its budget is so contingent on its activities, that actually that is undermining it. And then you, whilst not defending Tedros, made the point that he is a political figure, and actually the ordinary doctors involved are doing a lot of good. What changes would you make to the World Health Organization then?
Oh, geez, it's a long list. So I'm part of something called the International Health Review Panel, and we've just put out 2 large reports on how to reform the WHO. So one of them's a policy report that's about 160 pages long, and the other one's a technical report, which is almost 300 pages long. And these reports go into everything. I mean, we talk about hiring practices, how
Can you put it in a nutshell in 20 seconds, this 500 pages?
I mean, the first thing is the financing. You cannot have an organization financed where individual agents, I mean, actual individual people can tell the organization how to spend its money and not have that sway the agenda.
But isn't there corruption ultimately at the high end, and how are you going to get rid of that? I mean, we see it over here, like with our, not necessarily corruption, but the BBC, when some places have been so infiltrated, they're so rotten, it's not one barrel, the whole barrel's rotten, and you have to break down the organisation and just make a new organisation from scratch.
Well, this is something we cover in the report, whether or not to reform or replace. And we make a couple recommendations on both sides, and we leave it up to member states. This is a member state organization. It's up to countries like the United Kingdom, the United States, well, no longer the United States, but other countries, that the other 192 members of the WHO, to make this decision. Whether or not it is reformable. Now, there's lots of arguments to say it's so fossilized that it's impossible for it to reform. And others have suggested, and it's so interested in preserving its self-interest that it can't reform itself. It just cannot see itself reflectively. And I think there's a lot of good arguments there. If I was to reform it further, I would make it highly more accountable. There's low accountability of the executive board, there's low accountability of the DG, and there's low accountability of the institution itself.
Hasn't there always been...
There's things you can do to make it more accountable in which it's not.
One of the... Look, I might be wrong on this, but let me give you the example of football. It is often said that one of the big problems with FIFA is that very few countries would expect a body like FIFA to be in any way accountable. You know, you don't go to somewhere like, I don't know, North Korea. I gave that example earlier. The Russians. I mean, the Russians are not expecting. The Russians are expecting the leadership of FIFA to all stick their hand in the till. They're expecting the World Cup to be decided based on who bribes the officials the most. Now, I'm not got a downer on Russia, particularly, but that is what they're expecting to happen. And it's often said that when the Sun comes in and starts, writing about FIFA and UEFA, there is a tendency of FIFA and UEFA to just say, oh, that's the British kicking off, because there's just simply not a culture of accountability in any of the members, let alone the actual bodies themselves. And so you can sit there, in your position, and we joke about British universities, but you still have probably almost complete autonomy to work on your what you believe in, but you're not the norm around the world, and I guess. If the World Health Organization was British, it would operate better. But then there's always going to be an average, isn't there? The UN comes in after the Second World War, and it's about getting people together. But what we forget is the majority of countries are hellhole dictatorships.
Well, I mean, look, it's a membership organization of states, and unfortunately, not all states are the same, and some states are more brutal and some are more democratic. But it is representing all the states in the sense that when it comes to health and when it comes to, let's say, an infectious pathogen, they don't respect borders. So you do need to cooperate with those that you don't like at times, because it is a collective action problem. Now, you have an organization already set up that is built to do that. It has a World Health Assembly, each state one vote. Things can be discussed. Now, it's drifted. And I agree with you, it's absolutely drifted. But that doesn't mean that there's not issues for us to address at the global level that are in the interests of countries like the United Kingdom to cooperate with others. So the question then becomes, how do you reform this institution in a way that better represents those countries, all countries? And if not able to reform it, what do you replace it with? And so, in this report, we have what would an ideal health organization look like, an international health organization look like. Then we hold the WHO against that measure. It's designed for reform. It's also designed for replace. It's sort of up to what the member states want.
I think it's time to replace. Anyway, look, we've got to go to a break and say goodbye, but we've got to get a word about the hantavirus. Should we be worried about it, or is it some psyops operation? You know what I mean? Is it a serious disease, or what is going on here? Because we feel like we're being taken for a ride and maybe set up for something. A lot of people get paranoid about that.
I think the media has completely overblown this thing. If you were on the ship, I think you should be worried about it. But if you're not on that ship, then you don't need to be too worried about it. This is not novel. This is a known pathogen. It's operating pretty much as it has in the past, and it's just been completely overblown.
Sorry, just one final question on that, because obviously your expertise is on health policy. Look, anyone looking at the hantavirus with any level of knowledge knows that it is not a danger to people, but the level of trust now in public institutions after coronavirus is so low.
I agree.
Have you had any thoughts yet on how we can turn that round?
All the surveys show that trust is at its lowest it's been since they've started doing these surveys on global health. So it's actually hit rock bottom. And a lot of it is because of the confusion around COVID, some of the draconian policies.
Well, the vaccine as well, we still don't know how many people have died, or, you know, there's a lot of these rumours and everything. And I spoke to undertakers who said it was full of blood clots and stuff. And we still haven't had that information. Shouldn't that be what the WHO come out with, a transparent report on COVID and the basically the vaccine?
Yeah. Not just the WHO, states as well. I mean, most of these inquiries have been not very good. Let's just put that kindly. So yes, and when people see that, they see that these institutions can't be trusted. That's why the surveys suggest that it's at the all-time low. Yeah. And then a virus like this comes along, the media blows it out of proportion, and people again say, look, it's this fear-mongering, it's the same old playbook. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw that article, I think it was in BBC the other day, where they show British troops parachuting out of a military aircraft.
Yeah.
Yeah, onto the boat, making a big spectacle of it.
I think it was onto the island, not a boat.
Onto the boat.
It's just more of the securitization where you elevate the threat and the language of threat so high that it allows you to justify extraordinary measures. Yeah. And I think
psyops again, psyops, exactly. Anyway, that's Professor Garrett Wallace-Brown, Professor of Political Theory and Global Health Policy, I think at Leeds University. But it's all about your calls, and we're going to go through all the papers. 0344499.
And we're going to go to Eurovision next, but we won't.
We are going to Eurovision. Vienna. It's going to be in Vienna. The Irish aren't happy because Israel are in it. They hate them. We'll be talking about it. It's at Virtual Asher, Andre JP Walker on Twitter. It's Talk, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes with Eurovision data.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Okay, let's go straight over to Vienna, where we have had the second semi-final of Eurovision. I think it's just finished. Let's go to Adrian Bradley. Adrian, what's been going on?
We have had the second semi-final. This was where the UK also got to perform for the first time. The UK gets through automatically to the final, so they didn't have to face qualification. So 15 countries performed tonight. 5 have gone home. Those 5 were Azerbaijan, Luxembourg, Switzerland, Latvia, and Armenia.
I'm surprised about Azerbaijan. They normally put in a good effort.
Yeah, what was the problems with the songs?
They do. I think Azerbaijan, when I was kind of making predictions for who may or may not make it through, Azerbaijan was one that it just never quite connected. Wasn't, and you're right, they have in some years they have really put in some big efforts and big notes. I think this year wasn't their year.
So the big, we're in a bit of a rush, but the big political question is over Israel. I have to say the ECB, the organisers, have stuck to their principles. They refused, we don't want to put in, by Georgia a few years ago. They also wouldn't let Zelensky speak after Ukraine won.
Give us the planes.
And they're not going to allow themselves to be bullied over Israel.
The EBU, it's a membership body, and it's a membership body made up of public broadcasters across Europe. It's up to those broadcasters to decide who is and isn't members. And they had a big vote on this back in December, where all the members got to decide on a new set of rules when it comes to promotion, when it comes to how many votes you can have and how you vote. And the decision was you vote for the new rules or you have a straight vote on whether Israel...
So are they gerrymandering?
70% voted for the new... 70% of the broadcasters voted for the new rules.
Because last year the public vote was for Israel, and then obviously the judges were against Israel. I mean, the Irish are saying they're not going to show it on TV because of it. What is it? There was a flash mob apparently backing Israel's entry. What's the feeling like in Vienna, which obviously has a history of anti-Semitism?
I mean, there's Vienna itself, very much kind of just enjoying Eurovision and showing that there. There are 5 countries missing here, particularly Spain, Netherlands and Ireland, who are big countries of Eurovision. When you go to Eurovision, the biggest group of fans are the Spanish, the British and the Dutch. So for 2 of those countries not to be taking part this year is making a big difference.
But they take it seriously. We're the only country that doesn't really.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, we do take it. We do try and take it seriously. We're perhaps often a few years behind what we need to do, and sometimes we need to catch up on it.
But
Sam puts in a great performance tonight, and I think people will enjoy watching him on Saturday.
But let's just be clear. I mean, for reasons that we won't bother with, the Austrian authorities are going to be very, very keen to ensure that there is no bullying of Israel or indeed Jewish fans coming to the venue. They're just going to be super nervous about that, probably more nervous than they need to be. But I think it's a great shame when you look at the boycott, simply because I understand that there were that Russia was thrown out, but there is an entirely different situation between a national security operation in your own country and invading the country next door. I mean, if Israel invaded its neighbour, I would be against that, and maybe sometimes the incursions into southern Lebanon should. But what we're talking about here is that Israel should have thanked Hamas for the 7th of October attack, and the fact that 7th of September attack, whatever it was, 7th of October.
Wow.
Oh, sorry.
The key thing that the EBU will say is that this is a membership of broadcasters, not of countries, and for this public service broadcasters. And when it comes to Russia and Belarus, the reason that they were kicked out of the EBU was not specifically because of the war in Russia, but because the broadcasters themselves were no longer independent of the governments themselves. The EBU will say that keeping the Israeli broadcaster in is actually helping keeping it independent of a government, that there is some legislation going through to try and privatize and take over and control Can. And actually it's place in Eurovision and its place in the EBU is the thing that is actually protecting the independence of the broadcaster.
We've only got about 30 seconds. What sort of gimmicks? It's famous for its gimmicks. Have you seen any amazing sort of things like?
Oh, there's Beyonce's elevator is being used by Delta Goodrem from Australia. So you'll see her going from her piano high into the air. There's loads of pyrotechnics. There's boxes. There's ladders. There's lots of spinning mirrors. Loads to see.
Yes or no? Were the Moldovans actually singing? Because how do you do that dance and sing?
You have to sing live. The only thing you have to do live is singing.
I think
they're brilliant at it. I
think they had some backing singers off stage.
Anyway, look,
Adrian, they can have that.
We're going to be talking to you tomorrow from Vienna, all about what's happened at the Eurovision Song Contest. But join us for the newspaper review after this. It's Talk with Andre and Ash.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, this is the front pages with Andre Walker and Asher Gould. And what I wanted to do was, and of course, Mike Salem's coming on just in a second, but I did want to start this by encouraging your calls. 0344 499 1000. Last week, loads of you were exhausted because you'd been out campaigning for reform. We assume some of you Conservative, I think less so the other parties, but you're perfectly welcome nonetheless. 0344 499 1000. Here's the thing that's going to be really interesting, going to dominate all the papers tomorrow, is Andy Burnham in this by-election in Makerfield. Just to remember, we've got the figures now. The numbers are this. At the last local elections on Thursday, i.e. 1 week ago, Reform got 50% of the vote in Makerfield and Labour got 27% of the vote. Now, look, you know, basic mathematics, that's roughly half what Reform got. It is by no means clear that Andy Burnham will A, get this Makerfield seat, B, will he actually hold it. Now, just to explain where Makerfield is...
you know it very well, don't you?
Well, yeah, I was born in Makerfield.
Born and bred.
Well, I was born in Makerfield, but the boundaries of Makerfield changed. So I ended up...
Did you change?
I didn't.
When they changed
No,
the
I
boundary?
didn't. So when I was born, my MP was Ian McCartney. You might remember him. He was the one that brought in the Security Industry Authority. You know, the whole having licensed bouncers.
Oh,
And
yeah.
People kept thumping
They're
him.
not like they used to be.
Yeah, little fella. So basically, he wanted to have all bouncers licensed.
It's always the little ones.
He always used to get
watch out for.
No, he always used to get punched by bouncers. He got punched about 8 times.
Did he? So he made this new law to stop getting punched, did it?
No, it was...
Didn't help at all.
He got punched after he proposed the
But
new
they had
law.
a yellow band on when they punched him, so it felt a bit better.
So so obviously I was born in Makerfield, but then obviously there was a boundary change. Essentially, what you are talking about is you're talking about the bit that's almost directly in between Liverpool and Manchester. Whilst Haydock Racecourse is in Liverpool, it's incredibly close to Makerfield.
It's very confusing because, like, there's a big rivalry. Is there a rivalry in the middle there between Liverpool and Man United?
Well, if you think about it, Andy Burnham is the MP.
Scouse Manx.
Yeah, well,
strange,
exactly.
A strange phenomenon.
So Andy Burnham is the mayor of Greater Manchester, but he's an Everton supporter because, in fact, that bit
true.
That bit of Greater Manchester is actually part of the Archdiocese of Liverpool.
Do you know the closest football ground to the River Mersey is?
Tranmere.
No, Man City. Well, it used to be. I don't know when it was in Russia. Maybe not now, but it's closest football stadium to the River Mersey.
It would have been.
Yeah.
It would have been.
One of those little amazing facts.
So obviously, this is going to be a really interesting thing. Now, I know I've spoken to the new councillors for reform from that area, from Makerfield already, who are desperate to win the seats. They've all grown up, if you like, with Andy Burnham as the Member of Parliament. And obviously, I mean, he says he's from the area. And it's a funny area because it's the border between Cheshire, Lancashire, Greater Manchester, Merseyside. It's that bit in the middle.
It must be really messed up in there, like, yeah. He's going to make a field great again.
Make a field great again. I think he might lose.
Yeah, well,
he might
lose.
Yeah, he might lose.
It's not open and shut for sure.
Anyway,
for sure.
We are joined for this pay-per-view with Mike Salem, who was in last week, but now he's here in a personal capacity.
Yeah, well,
now, before we start, you are a Syrian Christian.
I am.
Bullied out by the regime, at least in part?
It's very complicated in Syria, but minorities always struggled in the Middle East.
You just didn't feel welcome.
Well, I mean, Christians have always sadly been persecuted in the area, even though we've been there for, 2,000 years.
The Middle East was all Christian, basically, wasn't it? The Coptics and all, and then basically got taken over. Not a lot of people know that. It was mainly Christian.
Indeed, it started all off in Jerusalem and then in Antioch. That's where the church first began, and that's where Paul had his conversion on the road to Damascus, as everyone knows very well.
Absolutely.
And he fasted there for 3 nights, and then he was healed by Ananias, and then he escaped.
So he ate in the days?
Well, 3 days only, not like Jesus.
So just at night he didn't eat? It's not that hard, is it?
So just, I mean, look, you are here for the pay-per-view.
Yes.
But I get incredibly frustrated when we hear about Israel in the Gaza Strip. Obviously, any full-scale invasion of a territory will involve civilian casualties, and that is a terrible thing. We hear nothing of the genocide against Christians by Islamists in the Middle East. We are not interested in reality, are we?
It depends what grabs these headlines, sadly, nowadays.
But we've got. I mean, there've been more people killed in Syria than have been killed in Gaza, and yet there will be no protest against the Islamists in Syria.
Look at Bethlehem. I mean, the home of Christianity, really. That's where he was born, wasn't he? I mean, that was under Israeli control till not that long ago. Was 80% Christian. It's now 10% Christian. I mean, and that's been replicated across the whole, and in Nigeria as well. There's a lot of it, and the Western world doesn't seem to care about their Christian sort of brothers at all, do they?
Well, we need to stick up for our values. I think we've forgotten what we stand for as Western countries, and I think as soon as we remember that guiding star, hopefully, I'm praying that the West would look out for their Christian brothers.
How easy is it to be a Christian in the Middle East? I mean, are you harassed day to day? Is it? I mean, what's it like? Just because you've got to remember, most people, whilst we are of the same religion, you and I highly unlikely that most people in that religion have even been to the Middle East, let alone have any great knowledge about what it's like to be a Christian over there.
Well, exactly, and the Middle East is very diverse, so it depends where you are. If you're in Lebanon, it's a majority Christian country, mainly Maronites. If you're in Syria, I was one of the 2% of the population that was Catholic. So it's completely different. And sadly, you know, this year the Easter celebrations and the Holy Week celebrations did not proceed because of attacks on Christian minorities. So that's very sad and that's very tragic when actually usually we do very big celebrations.
It's remarkable though, isn't it? Because if there was a threat to Ramadan in Britain, we would be castigated globally for being incredible racists. Yet in Syria, a former Christian country, it doesn't matter, it's all fine.
Why are we backing their Taliban leader, basically, wasn't he? The guy is now taking... Why he puts a suit on and, you know, ties himself up a bit, and now they're all fawning over him.
Exactly. I think the position is very inconsistent by the West. One moment he's very wanted and £10 million on his head, and now all of a sudden he's welcomed in. So I think that's the West's fault, I'm afraid to say. We haven't been very consistent, very weak. We haven't been very consistent on where we stand. And if we actually respect human rights and fundamental human right law and, you know, respecting freedom of religion, then we need to do better in calling out
what we will do in London, it seems to me, is to say the genocide against the Christians in the Middle East is a price worth paying to not offend the Muslims in Britain, and the attacks on Jews in Britain is a price worth paying to not offend the Muslims in Britain, because at the end of the day, Muslims vote, and if you look at Tower Hamlets, many of them vote twice. No, I'm joking. But the reality is, shut your mouth about attacks on Christians, shut your mouth about attacks on Jews, otherwise we will not vote for you.
Yeah, but the reality there is we saw what happened in Iran. Basically the left, the Islama left, collaborate, and then they get power, and the the left are all murdered. I mean, this is the playbook.
Yeah, the coalitions, the way they work in the Middle East is completely different, and, you know, the reason why Assad was overthrown is because everyone agreed that he had to go out, and, you know, you can agree with that, of course, but the problem is that was the only coalition holding it all together, and now he's out. You actually are exposed to the range of opposition there, which is
civil war,
which ranges from Salafists to actual moderates who want democracy to, you know...
But the moderates never win, do they? Because they're not as mad as the nutters with the Kalashnikovs who'll blow themselves up. So ultimately, the more crazy they are, they're the ones that win, even if they're only 5%.
Yeah, and that's why you have to keep on fighting. And
the impression we get is there is a fundamental weakness in Muslim society, and that is an unwillingness to criticise people within the Brotherhood. And so therefore what happens is the biggest crazy stands up, says the craziest thing, and nobody has the guts to tell him.
Some mosques do throw them out, though. There are some brave ones who...
Yeah, and this is the thing. I mean, I'm very proud to be a Christian, and I'm very, you know, privileged to have been born a Christian. I think that's one of my great life's lotteries, because, you know, our faith is very open. We stand up to scrutiny. People can criticise, and
what was your family? I mean, you say you're Catholic. Were you originally maybe a Coptic Christian, and then you got converted? How did your family become Catholic?
No, we were all Catholic always.
Yeah, but there must have been a time when you weren't.
No. You could be historically Catholic for 1,000 years.
You might have been 1,000. Where was it? Where do you know?
Yes, well, I haven't traced it as far back, and I'm a bit worried that I won't be able to trace it as far back because of the revolution. Everything's been torched. But you know, originally it was all Christian, and then the Great Schism happened in 1056, and that split the Catholics and the Orthodox, and then a bunch of Orthodox decided to go back to the Greek Catholic sect in around 1800s. So that's where I come from. They're called the Melkite Catholics.
Oh, the Melkite Catholics.
Indeed. So that's the background, and I come from that particular denomination.
It's amazing, isn't it? Because in this country, I remember when I was a kid and I first saw Middle Eastern Christians, because you brought up in this country and you think that Christians are all like songs of praise, you know, all white people, and you go and see that, and they're sort of like, you know, wearing all costumes, and they're dark-skinned, and obviously the original Christians were like that. We're from the Arab lands and the Middle East.
Well, the beauty about Christianity that it is universal, so you see different people worshipping in different ways, which is why I love going to churches when I'm travelling, because I want to see how different people worship, and you know, it's all the common denominator of, you know, loving Christ, and Christ spread his message through love, not through conquest, and I think that's very important to note.
Oh, you've just.
That was beautiful.
Do you know what he's just done? He's just been gently rude to the Prophet Muhammad, hasn't he?
Anyway, look, we're going through the papers, and a lot of it is Burnham.
Well, I want to start. Why don't I start with?
You start then.
I'll start with the Daily Mirror, and I'll tell you why, because it's got the pictures of the runners and riders. So just to remind you, at this time, Wes Streeting has resigned as Health Secretary. Andy Burnham has got the MP for Makerfield to resign, and Angela Rayner has announced that her legal problems are over.
They're not, though, apparently.
And the taxman is no longer after her.
Which is very odd. I mean, her tax deal doesn't stack up. Apparently, I was reading in the Telegraph, the tax experts are saying, well, this is unheard of. If you make a mistake and it's carelessness, which this seems to be, you do get a fine. The only way you wouldn't get a fine is if your advisor actually said you didn't need to do that, and the expert was wrong. But her expert said, we're not experts on that, you need to go and seek it. And she got 2 letters from that, and then she said that she did get advice from them saying it was all right, and the actual lawyers issued I remember in the papers, because they were sort of damaging their reputation, they said no. So she's lied at that point, and yet it's a sort of 2-tier tax system, isn't it?
It's all very inconsistent, right? And you can't, preach something and do something else. At any rate,
she does that a lot.
At any rate, yeah. Without
Mike Salem, though, let's be honest.
Yes.
Labour leadership election too close to Kerr.
No, exactly. It's. I mean, are any of them impressive?
No.
People, and funny enough, I saw some polling, and I think Starmer does well in comparison to all of them, except of Burnham. I think Burnham's the only guy who beats Starmer at the moment. So.
Yeah, so Wes Streeting is Mr. Popularity because Andy Burnham's Mr. Popularity because 25% of voters believe he'll do a good job. Wes Streeting is next with 10%. Wow!
But you know what happened to the Labour Party is, I mean, Burnham is
about as popular as a poo in the swimming pool.
Well, yeah, and Burnham is the last sort of lot of the old school, because when Corbyn took power, a lot of the talent they all just left. They thought, I'm not staying with this, so now they've been left. That's how Starmer came in. That's all these talentless people came in, and Burnham is from the old school at least is the one that's sort of in the lead. Do you think he'll get the keys? Do you think he'll win the... he's obviously got to become an MP, but do you think he'll end up being PM?
But that's the tricky bit. I mean, is he going to be PM? Is he going to be MP in the first place?
We don't know.
I think I was listening to LBC earlier today, and...
What?
Never heard of
polling
So you actually like LBC?
No, he didn't say that.
He didn't say James O'Brien. He's the evil old communist.
I was listening to Andrew Marr, actually, and he was saying that, I think, according to him, polling is 41% at the moment for reform in that particular seat, and Labour's on 28. So at the moment, Burnham won't even get in as an MP, and that will be very damaging for Labour, because if they lost elections under Starmer and Burnham couldn't even get in, then what does the Labour Party have to offer to win?
And just to remind, because people are wondering where Makerfield is, and this goes out to repeat in the morning, just to remind people, there is no landmark in Makerfield. It's in between 2 towns. Its nearest thing, which is not in the constituency, is Haydock Racecourse. So think about it, on the M6, on the M62, that sort of area. But it is in between. The good news about Makerfield, by the way, for everyone who is political, it has both a Wetherspoons and a KFC. Now I will tell you, when you are going out politically campaigning, knocking on doors for a week, those 2 facilities are absolutely vital. So that is the good news.
Good sustenance.
Yeah, that's right.
But but at any rate, they are going to be the people who might decide the fate of the country. There's 70,000 people, because if they vote Burnham in, then it'll be a procession for him. He can say, look, I've been able to defeat reform.
Yes.
I've been able to turn the tide. If you give me the keys to Downing Street, I might try and change the Labour Party. But on the other hand, if he doesn't get in, I mean, Starmer might be in a more stable position, but it's going to be a very difficult brainstorming session for Labour to try and think, well, what next then? Because Burnham hasn't got in. We have to stick with Starmer. And what do we tell the public?
And what is going to be really interesting about this is that, and I think there's some bravery and gumption by Burnham here, by the way. The local election results, so the polling is different to the local election results. Local election results say 50% Reform, 27% Labour in Makerfield. Nigel Farage will hit the kitchen sink at this election. And so So, I mean, the former MP for Lee, James Grundy, was saying to me, look, Farage is going to spend a fortune. It's going to be like, either attempt to win in Makerfield or personally fund Britain's independent nuclear deterrent, right? It's going to be absolutely massive. But if Burnham wins in Makerfield, he can say, with credibility, I've taken a seat, a Labour seat where nobody's voting Labour anymore, and I've beaten Farage. And that does make it a shoe-in, as you say.
Exactly, and if he says, I can do that, I can try and do it with the entire country. But the other important thing is, I feel this is a very tricky ground to be on, because it feels as though they're taking the voters for granted.
They're being used.
Right? So, if one Labour MP steps down, we're just going to get another
You
Labour
just
MP.
be good voters and put us in...
Indeed.
I've got to be honest with you, I don't
patting
think...
them on the head.
I think... Yeah. I would say this. I think that Burnham is more likely to win Makerfield than the Reform candidate, but I would only say that. I would not say he's guaranteed to win. Yeah. Not at all.
People like it, they might be voting in a potential leader. I mean, that helps Farage. I mean, Farage obviously has got these problems today about his £5 million donation and the 1.3 million.
Gift.
It was a gift, a reward for Brexit for 27 years.
No. People misunderstand this £5 million gift. Nigel Farage was not a member of Parliament. He was not in operational control of reform. He wasn't a parliamentarian, but a politician. The $5 million was to pay for his security costs because idiots out there, thanks to LBC's James O'Brien, are trying to kill him.
And the big story there is the government are disgraced because he's in the lead of the polls. He's likely to be the Prime Minister. If there was a vote now, he would be, and it's a disgrace because it's part of our thing that you're meant to put the full security with the potential leader. You do it with the leader, the opposition leader, because they're likely to be Prime Minister. Of course, they're doing this for a reason. It's all about... he's a political enemy, and by the way, he would have had 1.3 million in his bank account anyway. He's been doing speaking tours before he got into politics and helping Trump out. So I think it's all a bit of an unstory. And as he says, it's like Trump. The people, it will actually make him stronger. This sort of lawfare, like it happened to Trump.
What worries me, Mike, and I don't know what you think about this. My worry is that the House of Commons authorities will try and suspend him in order to cause a recall by-election.
They'll try everything.
I wouldn't. Depends. I mean, obviously, that's very rare.
But that would backfire on him anyway. And don't you have to have been given a prison sentence of a certain amount of time to be recalled to your constituency?
And I think usually MPs, if they've realised they've done something wrong, they tend to resign first.
Well, but what happened? But what happened was they tried to get a recall on Boris Johnson. That's why he stood down as an MP. But you might be right. It would
just strengthen him. He'd be well up for it. He'd just win with a landslide.
I think everyone's got to be a bit careful looking into this now because, as you said, it's very nuanced. But at any rate, I think Angela Rayner's been involved in tax affairs. Farage has been, talked about as this sort of £5 million. We need someone that can actually bring that purity and that consistency back into politics. And I think that people are fed up. So it'll be interesting to see who Reform will field in as a candidate. I think they're drawing up a list now.
Well, it could be, what was his name, the guy that stood in Gorton and Denton and didn't...
Matt Goodwin.
Would they use him or maybe not?
I don't think so, but...
So who would you think they'd put in?
Well, they've now got councillors. Yes. I was having this conversation the other day. We were talking about who would be the candidate for Lee. There's a newly elected councillor in the area who's a former RAF officer and whatever. So the point I'm making is, I'm not going to bother talking about that person individually. The point I'm making is, up and down the country, Reform now have people in constituencies who are councillors, admittedly only for a week, who could actually be parliamentary candidates, which is a huge step forward for them.
Indeed, and it depends. I'm sure they're deciding tonight, they're thinking about whether they should have someone local, someone who knows the area well, or whether they want to parachute someone with high profile to try and win votes, and ultimately that would be, I think, a deciding factor who Reform.
Who would that be? High profile? Have you got any idea?
Well, I can't think of anyone on top of my head. I don't think they do either at this point.
Jeremy Clarkson. He would win if they put Jeremy Clarkson in.
Yeah, but he's a pro-European.
Well,
he was.
Even with his farm.
Well, I'm sorry, he
likes local produce.
I mean, I'd be interested to see it. They said Gary Neville might go in for Andy Burnham in Mayor. So I think that'd be quite interesting.
Yeah, but Reform could win the mayoral elections.
I think they would.
Well, that's the thing. You are trading seats off. For whatever you're giving up. It's a big risk. And
I've got to be honest with you. If you asked me to put tenner down at Ladbrokes, which I never do.
You're a William Hill man.
I would say to you, I think Reform will lose Makerfield to Andy Burnham, but I think they'll win the mayoralty of Greater Manchester. And of course, there is a weird bit about this, isn't there? Because if Andy Burnham does not win Makerfield, then what will happen is he'll stay as mayor of Greater Manchester. So actually, ironically, Reform won't do this. They won't do this. But they'd be better just letting him win Makerfield. In fact, the biggest funny thing they could do, which they won't do, is to not even bother running a candidate and let him win virtually unopposed.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because
yes.
then it would deny him all the stuff that you said that he'd get.
That's an interesting perspective. I'll give you that.
They won't do that.
But I think they're going to throw everything at it to show that Labour is not a credible choice.
The thing is with political parties, you know, when people say do a deal on this and do this and cheat that and whatever, they're not like that. They generally fight to win. What they do is they do it based on the polls, and you could never Nigel Farage could never turn round to the chairman of Makerfield Conservatives, Makerfield Reform, whoever that person is, whoever he or she is, and says we're not going to fight this to win. That would be a disgrace. Farage would be in real trouble.
Anyway, look, we've got to take a little break at this juncture. Mike Salem is with us. We're going through the papers. He's from the UK Country Associate.
He also did witch trials.
I told you to sort your title out. UK Country Associate at the Consumer Choice Centre. It's a real mouthful. Anyway, it's talk.
No, he's here in a personal capacity. He's a political commentator.
Oh, right, yeah, forget that. It's just Mike. Mike's just here to chew the fat about the papers. It's Andre Nash on Talk, back with more papers, and you'll call 0344 499 1000 after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is a Talk, and we've got Andre Walker, Asher Gould, and Mike Salem in here. By the way, when I told you to shut up a second ago, it was only because we were coming back from the break.
Oh, yes.
It wasn't a more general...
By the way, we found out he's an orchestral player. He plays a bassoon and violin. So any bassoon players a violin, any questions you've got,
yes.
You just give us
do you have shows the lips?
Oh well, no. That's. I think you should. The camera should go on you.
No, that's a trumpet.
It's very good.
That a trumpet?
That's a bit more trumpety. But maybe I'll bring my instrument.
A bassoon is like an oboe, isn't it?
Don't show us your large instrument.
Isn't it a big oboe or something?
Yeah, that's right. Wow.
So can you play a saxophone then as well? Because it's a similar thing.
I haven't tried the saxophone, but it's saxophone is a single reed, but the bassoon is a double reed. So you've got two pieces of wood together, not just
But the buttons are the same.
They are
on
both
the clarinet, aren't they? And the sax.
Maybe yes, actually, you might be right on that.
I've never worked out why people who play the viola can't play the viola, violin, cello, and double bass.
Yeah, can you not play a viola?
It's just the same thing.
It's just a bigger violin.
It's a bit bigger, and the strings are different. You can try and pick it up. I sometimes someone once threw at me a viola and said, we need someone to play the viola. Can you do that? So I've done it once.
Is there a rivalry between all the string instruments?
Well, I think there's a joke. I think there are some jokes between them, but
The cello and the double bass. You look down on you see the double bass player sort of lumbering.
Like who's known like as the hardest one? It can't be the viola person. It's got to be the double bass.
I think the double bass because he's got the beefiness and the agility.
I think they're all lovely. I mean, I wish I can learn them all, but I think the trickiest traditionally has been the violin.
The harp's
harp is interesting as well. Yeah. But it's very expensive, and you have to take it with you everywhere you go. You know,
get it on the bus.
That's going to be very tricky because if the bus breaks harshly, then that's your instrument gone.
You would kill people, wouldn't you?
So what's the biggest orchestra, like 70 or what you've played with, and what's the feeling like when you're all amazing musicians playing together?
Oh, it's incredible. I mean, we've had the opportunity to play in the Albert Hall, and that was great. We've had different orchestras coming together, playing together, and it's surreal.
Do you get into this sort of telepathy with the conductor and the other people? Do you get this feeling of almost a sort of ethereal?
Oh, it's a wonderful thing, music. You know, it's it is a universal language, and wherever you're listening to it, there are some composers that are always so classic in the way they portray emotions, and it's just magnificent.
It makes a big difference, doesn't it? I used to see Simon Rattle as a kid, and when he was...
Who was Simon and why did
he
you
was the CBSO, the Birmingham Orchestra. Have you ever played the Birmingham Symphony Hall?
No, I haven't, unfortunately.
It's a proper symphony hall.
I wouldn't bother with that. Not whilst Manchester's got a place.
But whether it's classical or whether it's pop or modern, music has this, and British music has been so great at exporting itself as well. You look at Oasis, you look at the Beatles, it's incredible. And
because when you go to other countries, it's very whiny, the music, isn't it? I mean, all that sort of rubbish.
In this country, from the 1700s up to the First World War, there was a triennial festival in Birmingham that was massive.
Don't stop pushing Birmingham.
No, I'm just saying it was like a worldwide. It was a worldwide.
But this is the thing now with all this bureaucracy.
By the way, if you thought Syria was bad, don't touch Birmingham.
No, Birmingham's sort of not very good, is it, anymore?
Well, I think it needs to be better run.
The Symphony Hall is, though.
Yes, I think it needs to be better run, and I think now with the elections, with Labour losing majority, we shall see.
I thought Asher had the better idea. Rather than spend all that money on HS2 to get the trains 20 minutes closer to Birmingham, he said, why don't we just knock down Birmingham, move it 20 minutes closer to London and start again? Did you not say that?
I don't think so.
You should become a minister.
my star in Birmingham.
You should become a minister.
I'd like to become mayor of Birmingham. I'd make a good mayor. I've got a history there.
Well,
a lot of ideas.
Yeah, the thing that baffled me with HS2 is if they cared so much about the north, why didn't they start building it from the north?
Yeah, they don't.
But
they don't. In fact, actually, people in places like Makerfield,
make a lot of money.
People in places like Makerfield do get quite annoyed about this. There is a huge advantage to HS2, but that advantage is to make the West Coast Main Line a stopping service, so it can stop at places like Tring, Berkhamsted, all these places in between London and Birmingham. There is no business case whatsoever for HS2 for the north, because in reality, the problem is our trains, if you think about it, go from London Euston, and their first stop may be Crewe. But often the first stop is Warrington. So they go straight from the south to the north. But that means they can't have local services in between London and Birmingham. Yeah. That's what HS2 is like.
It's like trains off the track rather than speed and have more, less congestion.
And you've highlighted the issue that I've always advocated for, which is the problem is not getting to London. You can get to London. It's you trying to get from Newcastle to Liverpool, for instance.
Exactly.
That's the pain. The cross-rail infrastructure is terrible because you've got to take 2 trains, a bus and whatever, when actually we should connect the north a bit better. And if you do that, you will unleash this economic powerhouse.
Absolutely. The irony is, there is a train from Newcastle to Liverpool. It's one of the only cross-country trains of its nature. It takes 5 hours, which is utterly mad, and it goes through Newton-le-Willows, which I think is the nearest train station to Makerfield.
Well, interesting. But funny enough, that's quick. In that case, it's quicker to get to London and then go back up again.
Yes,
which is insane.
Have you ever seen the trains? Some of the trains they got, the poor Northerners. They're just buses where they cut the wheels off them, but they literally
the Pacers.
Yeah, that's what you Northerners get. I shouldn't laugh because we have luxury.
Yeah, so just to be clear, what a Pacer is.
Air conditioning.
I don't know if they've still got Pacers in operation, but a Pacer literally is a National Express coach that they cut the bottom off. I'm not joking.
Railway wheels on.
And they got a freight carriage and cut the top off it and put the coach on top of the thing.
And the Northerners thought that was luxury. Anyway, it's talk.
It was luxury.
Andre, it was for them. Yeah, they used to have to run like the Flintstones underneath. At least they didn't have to do that anymore. It's Andre and Ash, and we're talking to Mike Salem, going through the papers. Give us a ring, 0344 499 1000, and we'll ring you back if you're a bit, of a skinflint. And you can send us a voice message on WhatsApp. Don't forget, on the same number. Who's on after us if you're listening in the morning? Is it Mark Dolan? Yes, it's going to be Mark Dolan.
Oh,
if you're
you've done that. It's becoming tiresome.
0344.
It's almost as bad as my impersonation of the King.
Thanks to Ash and Andre for a marvellous show, but ours going to be much better. We're going to be Dolan. It's me, Mark Dolan, the King, after Andre and Ash. Yeah, thanks, Mark. Get out. We'll be back after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
I shouldn't worry about it. They'll definitely let you in now. Oh, sorry. This is The Late Show. This is the press preview with Andre Walker, Ashley Gould and Mike Salem. We're only joking. Only joking. Right, let's go to...
Let's have a look at the Soar Away Sun. Burnham in flight for number 10. Yeah, Bruised PM won't block bid. Andy Burnham was last night facing a brutal fight with Nigel Farage as he launched a bid to seize number 10. The left-wing mayor of Greater Manchester aims to run for the seat of Makerfield after the sitting Labour MP agreed to step aside.
I mean, the sitting Labour MP, by the way, who was going to lose...
He was going to let go anyway, wasn't
he? And also, he was in trouble for spying on Times journalists.
Yeah.
And his own MPs. His own colleagues.
So he was out. He was going to go anyway, wasn't he?
What that was is Josh wants a peerage. Right.
Well, this is what I thought, being kicked upstairs. But, Starmer could have done the funniest thing and appointed Burnham to the House of Lords and put him as Health Secretary.
Yeah.
That would have been hilarious.
However, the rules are different now. Once you are summoned to the House of Lords, you can now refuse. You couldn't refuse before. You've got up to 12 months to refuse it.
But then, if he refuses it, Starmer can say, well, I tried to bring the Labour Party together and this man is obstructing our mission.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine? So apparently, literally, you get a bang on the door and they go, His Majesty has sent you this, and it's a box with your summons.
Is it a man in stockings and a wig?
Can you imagine?
A big rod at the door.
Can you imagine literally going, have it back?
Yes, I don't want to. Thank you very much.
Didn't Farage?
They never offered him.
But they were word that and he said, I will not accept it, so they didn't offer it. So.
He said that he would not accept it after it was absolutely guaranteed they weren't going to give it to him.
Yeah.
Well, no, he said, I won't accept it now. He was offered it after the referendum, and which he would have taken it then. But anyway.
Yeah.
Here we go to Daily Mail. God help us all. Day 2. Labour's great pretenders, and there they are, streeting quits. But number 10 mocks failure to get votes to challenge PM. That is a bit of an embarrassment, isn't it? Because he didn't get anywhere near the 81 or whatever.
I love that. I love that, Mike.
Embarrassing.
We've definitely got the numbers. We just don't feel we should deploy them yet.
Yeah, Jimmy Hill.
Yeah.
Jimmy Hill.
Yeah, Jimmy Hill.
Yeah.
Something smells fishy.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think it's fair to say that Wes Streeting doesn't have the numbers, does he?
No, and I think he only did it so he can trigger something, and I think he messed it up. I think he didn't even do it properly, and that's the problem with Labour. I don't think they know how to get rid of a sitting Prime Minister. The Tories have experience.
Well, they haven't got someone to challenge because they all left when Corbyn was in town, but also Streeting, he doesn't have that look, does he? Of a prime minister, you know. William Hague, he suffered from not having the right. You know, you do have to look right, especially since the age of TV.
It was a curious decision to go to the King. To go to Starmer the day before the King's speech. I mean, they're saying, I don't believe this, by the way, the vellum takes 2 days to dry. Therefore, if Starmer had resigned, they couldn't have printed a new King's speech in time.
Yeah, right.
Yes, they could have. You don't have to do it on vellum. And I'll tell you why. And by the way, I've had arguments with journalists before. One journalist told me I was wrong about something, and then the following day, in his newspaper, he printed, here's a fact that most people don't know, and quoted me without my name. But anyway, let me tell you something. Under the reign of Queen Victoria, sometimes she didn't bother turning up herself many times. Sometimes she sent a letter, sometimes she sent the Prince of Wales. There could have been a new King's speech. But anyway, Streeting just lacks competence to try and unseat him the day before the King's speech, because how would you do that? It's just weird.
No. And, you know,
So he saw him and then said, I'll tell you what I'll do, I'll come to the King's speech tomorrow and then resign the day after.
And the King was annoyed about, you know, being used as this political...
Well, I think it was very important not to get the palace involved in all this, I think, which is why there was an element of continuity. But I do think that if Streeting was indeed trying to launch a bid to become Prime Minister, he did not do it well at all.
I mean, there is a visual aspect. I remember I read some article that they did some tests on when Nixon and Kennedy did the debate. They asked the American public who won the debate. People that listened on the radio, they said, oh, Nixon won that debate. People who watched it on television, because Nixon he was ill and he didn't look good anyway.
He was sweating,
Kennedy was all suntanned. They said Kennedy won. So, and a bald man has never won against a man with hair. We are a fickle bunch, and, you know, there is a look, isn't there, that you want your leaders to have.
But what does Streeting stand for, anyways? You know, I mean, Starmer.
What does Burnham stand for? What do they? Well, I mean, Rayner.
I think you do know with Burnham, because he's got track record in Manchester.
Have you seen the state of Manchester?
Well, I agree, but I think many people think he's done a good job there, and that's for them to decide.
He hasn't had the criticism, really.
But, you know...
I mean, I tell you
have
what...
you seen Piccadilly Square?
Hang on. Let's clarify this, because I think it's an important point to make. Here's what I think is the difference. Sadiq Khan is a see you next Tuesday. We're just going to be completely open about that. But he has 70 press officers working for him. The reason people hate Sadiq Khan is not because of the failure to deliver Crossrail on time. It's not because of the financial incompetence. It's not because of the knife crime explosion. It's not because of the way that housing associations have discriminated against white people. All of that he's got away with. The reason people hate Sadiq Khan is he's deliberately provocative to people he doesn't like and picks fights constantly. Now, Burnham is a guy who personally is the opposite of that, right? So Burnham has probably been almost as bad as Sadiq as Mayor of Greater Manchester. He's not as bad as Sadiq. Sadiq couldn't run a bath. But
he's done it in a pleasant way.
But because he's not been nasty, people think he's absolutely marvellous. The achievements of Andy Burnham actually are comparatively small. But
their police force was put into special measures. Piccadilly Gardens, who've got it's Greater Manchester. Look at the grooming rape gangs. I mean, it's not exactly amazing up there, is it?
Exactly. You go. Okay, let's compare the two big mayors. They're not the only mayors. The two big mayors, Sadiq Khan and Andy Burnham. Andy Burnham's done better. He has done a bit, but actually, fundamentally, the only reason he doesn't get the criticism that Sadiq gets is because he's not a knob.
Yeah, I think Sadiq as well suffers from what I was going to say Streeting suffers too. I mean, the lack of values, what do they actually stand for? Starmer, you know, he prioritises international law. He's a lawyer. He cares about those things. He's got his guiding star. I think with Burnham, you can argue that he actually does believe in sort of left-wing principles in the Labour Party. But I think, you know, Streeting is just a pragmatist. So is Sadiq Khan. It's all about how the news headline looks like.
Isn't that with Streeting, the thing that's similar between Streeting and Starmer is, we are better people than you, therefore we should run the country. Do you not think that's their fundamental view? That Streeting just believes he's got a moral superiority?
I think there's a sense, many politicians do have a sense of entitlement, and I think that would be apparent on both of them, especially with Khan trying to push particular messaging in London. And they've got to be careful, because actually a good mayor, a good leader, is someone who leads by their principles and values.
But I always say about Sadiq Khan is very unusual amongst politicians. Most politicians want to bring people together. You know, even Nigel Farage, who's seen as quite a divisive thing. Well, actually, go for it. Watch Tommy Robinson. Even Tommy Robinson tries to be conciliatory with people. He goes, oh, you know, I'm very concerned about Muslim gangs. That's not all Muslims or whatever. Sadiq Khan is the opposite. Sadiq Khan's interest is creating division and hatred. That is what he gets off on. And if you looked at, I mean, the classic example is the congestion charge in Bromley, the cleaner air, whatever it is. He brought it in because he just wants to fight with the people of Bromley. That was it.
Yeah.
There wasn't any real purpose to it. And you see that continually throughout Sadiq's career. He loves division. He loves hatred. He loves the othering of people. And I've always said that the number one thing with him, his mum must have loved him very much, because you get the sense with him that you know, maybe he's got a load of sisters or whatever, that you know, as a toddler, you know, when he had his tantrums.
Well, imagine him as a toddler.
When you can imagine as a toddler, when he had his tantrums, his mum would apologise to him, and I think he's always got the idea that if he shouts at somebody long enough, they'll just ultimately thank him and give up.
Do you think his mum went, "Where's the chocolate biscuits gone?" He went, "Right, I haven't seen any. I don't know anything about any chocolate biscuits. You know, I don't even know what you mean. What do you mean chocolate biscuits? I don't know." That's sort of where he learns it.
It's funny actually. The thing is about Sadiq Khan, though, you can imagine, though, he'd never beat anyone in a fight. Like he'd be the sneaky one, wouldn't he? Yeah. Hanging around with the big lads, just trying to
get him.
What was it that comedian said? Hanging around with the bullies, laughing at their jokes. You know, being the little man. That would be him.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sorry to say, his record in London was terrible. I mean, you look at the 20 miles per hour. You look at the ULEZ congestion charge expansion. He just made
the denial of the grooming gang that he like the chocolate, but he didn't know what they. What
do you know that guy? That guy from the New Statesman, who's his biographer, who's got a chin like a banana. What's that guy? George something or other. New Statesman political commentator. He came to meet me because I'd been at Sadiq's election count in 2010, and Sadiq had literally made up a completely fictitious lie that the Conservative candidate had been racist towards him. It absolutely wasn't true. Right. They hated each other, hadn't said anything to each other. But what he did say to me was, he said, and this was Sadiq's own biographer, he said to me in private, the reality is the man can't do the job.
No, I mean, TfL is running at, £450 million plus deficit each year. We're not doing anything about fare dodgers.
No.
Many people feel they are being treated unfair.
Do you see the fare dodgers regularly? I see them every time I travel.
You know what they do here? They go up to the guy who presses the button, and the guy just opens the door for him now.
Yeah, and you know, that's the problem with Khan's way of running London, is that it creates an unfair society, because people feel they're paying God knows how much.
It's £30,000 a year.
Indeed, you know, it's the cap has gone up to what, £16-18 a day now. You know, you're paying that much daily, and some guys just dodging it every day.
So Asher thinks I'm wrong about this, but I think that the revenue enforcement people are racist, because I've got to be honest with you, black kids walk up, they let them through. White kids have lost their ticket and they grab them.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem. Is
it feels racist.
If they're rough-looking white kids, they normally let them through.
Do they?
Well,
I mean, the problem is, if you try and be honest, they might see us as an easy prey. You know, if I say, I'm very sorry, I lost my ticket, what do? You just try and be an honest, upstanding citizen. Well, they'll have you. They'll tell you, yeah, you're sorry, you've lost it. You're going to have to buy another one. But if you don't actually say, I'm very sorry, I lost my ticket, and you just bump the gate. Yeah. They're not going to do anything.
I'll tell you what I do.
That's why the sense of unfairness comes from. Because
if you go and go, let me through, they go, oh yes sir, yes, we'll let you through, because they don't know what to do with you.
Yeah, why should I do right?
That's how I do it.
Exactly, but sadly we have to.
Do you know what I do whenever I see a fare dodger who goes through the barrier? I point at them and shout, thief. Thief, scumbag, thief, scumbag, and I just walk along with them shouting scumbag, thief at them. And I'll tell you what, I think it upsets them.
Does it work? I was going to.
It doesn't work. No, it doesn't work. Well,
but it makes them feel bad.
I just wonder when.
Embarrassed.
I think the reason why I do it is because if we all did it, can you imagine?
They don't like being embarrassed and being called and pointing, someone calling them a thief. They don't like it.
I think it depends on people. I think some people sadly have lost complete sense of morality of what's right and what's wrong, that they'd be willing to commit
but if I don't let you away with it, I mean, if you think about it, what is, acceptable and unacceptable behaviour varies from society to society, right? If you do not tell people what is unacceptable behaviour, how are they supposed to know? Particularly, and maybe this is it, and particularly if you're from a migrant family that come from a country where rules are not as rigorously enforced as in Britain.
No queuing, for instance.
Well, you said that.
Well, it's like Giuliani and the broken windows policy. You've got to smash the small crimes and it stops the big ones. Anyway, we've got to take a little break here. We've got Mike Salem in going through the papers. It's Andre and Ash on Talk, back in 2 minutes.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is a press preview in what is becoming one of the most important weeks in modern British politics. Obviously, the King's speech. Also, what is going to happen with Keir Starmer? Will he resign today, being Friday, or will he continue? Do you know what he reminds me of?
What?
He reminds me of the Terminator. Do you remember the end of the Terminator film when you thought it had been killed, and then the dust in the first one, the dust clears and the hands, and you see the eyes going, and then it gets blown up again, and you still see
change.
You see
change. The grown-ups are here.
The reality is, he believes
the Starminator.
The Starminator.
Starminator, yes.
He believes.
Yeah.
Keir Starmer, it appears to me, he believes that he is a better person, and if every process is properly organised, then and you staff the process with good people, politics will emerge from that.
But doesn't he, he must realise everyone hates him.
He's a barrister. He's got that methodical thinking, and which is why it's so hard to brush him off because barristers just won't quit till you defeat them in argument.
Yeah.
So if it means a vote of no confidence, I think he may well say, well, fine, if you want to have a vote of no confidence in me, go to Parliament and call it.
But why? But I've asked this before, Mike. What is it that he thinks he's doing? Does he go to bed at night thinking, I am a real success? I'm doing phenomenally well. I get the impression that he just wants to be Prime Minister because he couldn't think of anything better to do.
Well, I think
now that's full credit to him because it's quite hard to do that. But I don't get the impression that he thought, I want to do something here.
The thing is, it hasn't been that hard to do that. That's the thing now. Politics, it's not that hard to get. He wasn't a great man, a great thinker. He's just become Prime Minister by being a boring man and following process.
Yeah, and I think he goes to bed thinking, okay, he's not doing the best job, but you know, he's in there preventing someone else arguably worse, and his argument is, if I'm there, I'm sort of at least it's not.
He's the worst rated Prime Minister ever. So, I mean, he must look at that, and he knows he can't go out in public because everyone sings.
Now, Mike, we're going to have to
they?
criticise you on something.
Go on.
Going to have to criticise you.
Yeah.
Right.
What's he done?
Look at the little screen. You can't lean back in your chair.
No, he's
I see. I'm enjoying myself. It's a very.
The problem is
cameraman.
We've got a cameraman going. Where is he sat? Where is he sat?
Well, I'm still stationary. I'm still sedentary.
Okay, I just want to ask
like
you.
Starmer, I'm not going anywhere.
Front page of the Sun. Front page of the Sun. Top Gear is coming back. Do we care?
Is it? Oh yeah, Top Gear, we go again. Yeah, no, Top Gear finished when Clarkson punched the man for not making a steak, and rightfully so, because the other day I had to have just sandwiches all day, and I understand why he got. Well, you should never punch your producers, especially not our one. He's quite. I've never tried to punch a producer. I've tried to punch a fellow presenter.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
Goodness.
Well, no, I didn't. Huh? We had an argument, and the producers split us up.
Oh.
Who was that?
In studio.
No, better not tell us.
I mentioned loads of times. Everyone's going to be able to guess.
Well, nothing beats the heated Arabic debate. I don't know if you see them on YouTube.
Oh yeah, they properly
flip tables.
They properly kill each other.
But at least you get a winner at the end of it normally.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Well, and I think the presenters do stuff on purpose to, you know, add fuel to the fire. So
I mean, I've got to be honest with you. One of the big problems about the Middle East is it's too bloody hot to not have a cold beer. That is the problem. Yeah. That is the problem with a lot of Muslims in the Middle East. It's too bloody hot to not have a cold beer.
Or a good glass of arak. Have you tried arak?
I have that. Oh, that's spirit.
Really good. Yes,
that's
it's
powerful
licorice.
stuff.
Very
man.
nice. Yeah.
Well, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
It grabs you by the. It really does.
Yeah, it's too. I mean, the reality is, you can't even say to them, look, go out for a beer together and calm it down. You know, let's go out for a lassie together. Nobody's gonna go for
well,
that.
they go out for a shisha.
Go out for a shit, yeah, but it's not anything good though, is it?
Depends where you go.
Yeah, well, neither's drinking, but you know, we still do it. It's great.
Yeah, but drinking will calm you down and make you. Well, at the end of the day.
So will a shisha if you go to the right place.
Oh.
Yeah. Well.
Anyway, look, who is it? Because there's always sort of dark horse who we don't know. Is there anyone?
Al Kearns.
Is there an MP who's going to come through?
Al Kearns.
Al Kearns, you think?
No, I don't think. I know that he's interested in the leadership. Former army officer. He's written in the New Statesman what I would do if I led the country. Subtle, right?
I think he might be trying to get Secretary of State for Defence for whoever the next Prime Minister is. I think that's what he's positioning himself as. So if I'm John Healey, I'd be concerned what my future would look like. Now, nobody's been talking about Shabana Mahmood. I don't know
Except for the fact that Maurice Glassman said she's the only person who understands what the Labour Party should become.
And that's interesting because Blue Labour is a voice that I think the Labour Party needs to hear from. That's probably their best chance of trying to salvage.
But Labour now is interested in, as I say, LGBT, transsexual agenda, uncontrolled immigration, membership of the European Union, you know, big business, all the stuff that their voters hate. That's what they love now. So what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to try and change and get elected in places like your Brightons and Wandsworths and places like that, where there is at Sheffield Hallam, where you've got these public sector workers who love all that, love all diversity training days and all that sort of thing.
But then that would be encroaching on the Lib Dem territory, and I wonder if there are enough seats to try and salvage that.
Well, there aren't. But unless the Labour Party wishes to appeal to working class people, they're not going to win anything.
And I think that's what they're going to have to swing for, which is why I think Shabana Mahmood can be a candidate, because she might come across strong on immigration, she might come strong on some social values. So she might be a contender, but she's been very quiet, maybe suspiciously quiet.
Exactly, yeah. It sort of says everything, doesn't it? Who's your money on?
I think Starmer's going to stay, to be honest.
You think so, yeah?
It's just, I don't see any credible opposition. And
Miliband's he's no good, is he?
Oh, he's awful.
He's already lost an election. How can he be?
But Miliband is just, he lost an election already. That would be a great betrayal of the public trust.
He would nail the poor of this country to the desk with his net zero.
Indeed, that's the problem. Fundamentally, we need someone who appreciates the need for energy independence.
He's doubling down on it. All the other countries that were like him have gone back on it and are pumping gas and oil, and he's still sticking down.
Still not drilling, which
like
is
a lunatic.
Yeah, and we didn't hear anything about that in the King's speech, which was a shame.
No, we did. The energy independence bill, they didn't mention it will ban fracking and Nazi oil.
Well, they didn't. They didn't mention any active. They said energy independence, which I very much welcome. I think we need it. But the only way to do it is to accelerate nuclear and to accelerate drilling. Yeah. And they've encouraged. No,
it does nuclear. The opposite. The energy independence bill will guarantee we are not energy.
But also, it's Miliband again pouring concrete because he's banning future. Obviously, they can overturn the law, but he's making it law. Anyway, if you're listening in the morning, Mark Doran's next. Hi, I'm annoying Andre right now. Thanks to Andre and Ash for a great show. Right, we're back in the evening at night time. So yeah, anything to say? We've got a minute left. Any your final?
This is your final thought. Now, this is your first press
like
preview.
Jerry Springer.
So you used to be listening to the early breakfast. You used to be talking to the early breakfast show on Friday and the late show on Thursday night. You're now only talking to the late show. So what do you want to tell them that you weren't willing to tell the breakfast?
30 seconds.
Well, I just want to say, trust your guts. The public, believe in your principles. Vote for the people that you think are going to represent you. We can collectively do great things, and
ironically, it's the message that Tommy Robinson's saying. Everybody needs to vote.
Like peas.
We need engagement. You need to go out there and make your voice heard, because doing it peacefully is far better than doing it violently.
Something that you would know as a Syrian.
Indeed. Let's not burn our country down, and let's actually sit down together. Vote on the things that we want.
That's a nicer thought than people.
Thanks, Mike. That's Mike Salem. We're going to be all your calls 03444991000.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Talk more economics to get the economics.
Mike went out live. Okay.
Mike stayed because, you know, he just thought he's benefit from our nice coffee and heating, so he's going to stay and take your
Okay,
call.
look, we would love you to call if you are from Makerfield. We'd love you to call if you are a former Labour voter who might come back if Starmer leaves, if Wes Streeting gets in, or any combination thereof. 0344 499 1000. You're really slow on the calls today. We've got, 6 available slots, which means if you call now, you'll definitely get through. By the way, hello to Edward in Salt Lake City, who says that Starmer has had his knighthood. He now wants a peerage. No, I think we want to give him a peerage. He doesn't want to have it quite yet. All former Prime Ministers are offered a peerage. They used to get an earldom, by the way, which Margaret Thatcher was keen to bring back, as you can imagine. The country was not keen because it would have involved Mark Thatcher getting an earldom.
The Queen stopped Tony Blair getting one, didn't she?
No, they were bothered about his Order of the Garter. No, it's Brune that she didn't give Order of the Garter.
No, but she didn't like that he got rid of the Royal Ship Britannia. That was very upsetting for her.
Yeah. He didn't even.
upsetting.
Do you know he didn't even know he'd got rid of it until it was announced? Tony Blair. Right, do not do that again. Mike, has Mike got his ears in?
I think I've got my ears.
Turn round.
Yeah,
turn.
he's got
Turn your head.
Am I in?
Yeah,
Am I
they're
in?
in there, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
not right.
Well, I can hear you loud and
can
clear.
hear it.
Okay,
I can
right.
hear
Let's go
myself
to
as well.
Let's talk to Roy in Hampshire. Roy.
Roy and Bungie.
Roy.
They're the wrong way round.
Roy.
Hey, lads, how are you?
All right, yeah, how are you, Roy?
I'm all right, mate. I thought it was wonderful that the old king went up to Golders Green today to saw the Jewish people.
Yeah, it's what they're all about. It's what the royal family's all about, isn't it? And it really, you know, instilled a bit of confidence in the community.
Yeah, it was wonderful, mate. But there's one thing, mate. Miliband, he's supposed to be a Jewish fella.
Yeah, yeah.
When all these troubles go on about, you know, what's happening to the Jewish people, he never stands up to be counted. You
No.
never hear him say anything to, you know, promote the Jewish people, to help them. He doesn't do a thing.
Well,
But-
I mean,
but
God
Mel-
punished him when he ate that bacon sandwich.
But Melanie Phillips was saying, I think it's a reasonable point, there's always been people throughout the history, throughout the history of the Jewish faith, the Jewish race, whatever you want to call it, who are self-hating Jews, and some of the biggest cheerleaders for anti-Semitism have been people of Jewish descent, and she includes Zach Polanski in that.
He's a lunatic, mate. God help us if he ever got in.
Yeah.
Well, he can't because he's not registered to vote. Did you
Yeah,
see
he didn't
that?
vote. Yeah, he didn't vote.
No,
himself.
not registered to vote.
Not even registered. Said for security reasons.
Because he lives on a boat, doesn't he? He does.
Yeah, well, I did.
Of course,
see
he
that,
lives on a boat. Him and his fella burping and farting at each other all night on
Is
the
that one of
boat.
their things?
Vegetarianism.
Mate, I'd go up there and I'd pull the plug out.
I've got to be honest with you.
yeah.
That little boat and a vegetarian diet, I bet it was filth in there. In the
Well, I bet
morning.
it moves fast.
Absolute filth. I was like,
So, who do you think, Roy? Who do you think's going to be the next Prime Minister? Do you think it'll still be Starmer? Do you think it'll just cling on by his
I don't know
fingernails?
if I'm allowed to say it, mate. What have you got? You got a lady there's a bit. I would call her a slapper.
I don't know who you're talking about there. But yeah,
You've got a nutcase who's Miliband.
yeah.
yeah.
You know, who have you got,
Don't
mate?
have you go at Streeting because I know what you're going to say. Right.
Well, you know, well, he bats for the other side, mate. So
Well, I knew you were going to mention that.
What,
only
Yorkshire?
guy I think, mate, I wouldn't mind you seeing there is that. What's his Al something or other? The guy.
Al Kearns.
Yeah, the ex-Royal Marine.
What made me laugh about that, Roy, was you went, well, one of them's this, one of them's that. And then he stops at Wes Streeting thinking, how can I say this? And we all know what
There's
he's about to
nothing
say.
wrong in any of those being any sort of those.
Under the end of those, he's not very intelligent.
She's given up vaping. She's given up smoking.
Giving up vaping.
It's a very tricky week. That's the worst week probably to give
Did
back.
David Cameron ever give up smoking?
No, he loved it. Nick Clegg, he was a big smoker as well.
Was he?
Yeah, I remember I used to have fags with him when he used to come in to talk in the old days on the veranda. But
He used to be able to.
he used to ponce fags, didn't even have his own fags, Nick.
Yeah, that's because they can't go into a shop and buy them. That used to happen with David Cameron.
Yeah, that's their
He used to
excuse.
go, I don't want to go into a shop and buy cigarettes
Well,
because
just send your man
everyone
to
will go.
Send your man.
Have a go at me for being a smoker.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, and the thing is, they've been pushing legislation to make it harder for everyone else to smoke, and it's so hypocritical and ironic. Taxing the working man. It's a £16.
They don't even know how to pay for things. Do you remember when
Sunak?
Yes. Sunak, the petrol thing. He didn't have any idea.
Yeah. Do you remember when Charles Kennedy voted for the smoking ban, and when it came in, got into trouble on the overnight sleeper because he was drunk and he had a fan.
Yeah, he didn't care. He said, I don't care, and good on him. But yeah, do you remember Sunak? And he was going, yes, this is my Ford Fiesta. Like one point, yeah, we knew that wasn't your car either. He went to the wrong side for the petrol thing as well.
By the way,
Roy, you still there, Roy?
My favourite.
What are you doing? Chip in.
My favourite thing was me and my mate got the overnight sleeper to Edinburgh. Do not get it. It's horrendous. Right, we didn't realise. We thought they let you sleep. Right, so we're in the buffet car, which closes when the last person leaves. So we left at 2:30 in the morning. Right, didn't realise they get you up at 5:30. 5:30, right? Yeah. So we'd been told by Farage that if you smoked out the window of the sleeper car, nobody cared. I was a smoker in those days. Well, they might not have cared about Nigel Farage doing it, but trust me, they cared about me and Raheem Kassam doing it. We got into real trouble. So they told us, he said, go to bed now or we're going to throw you off the train. We got bounced up and down for 3 hours, and that we were in separate beds, obviously. I wasn't having a thing with Raheem Kassam, right? But we got bounced up and down for 3 hours, got to Edinburgh, they threw us out at 5:30 in the morning or something. Oh, I'll tell you what, we had to book a hotel immediately and go back to bed. Absolutely destroyed. Anyway, Roy, your thoughts?
Yeah, anything else, Roy? You just sat there silent, Roy. Come on.
Oh, shit, I can't get a word in edgeways with you lot, mate.
We'll leave you a gap. Here you go. Away you go.
Listen, with this A1, why can't we bring Maggie back?
Hey, dig her up, dear. We need to dig up Margaret.
Clone her.
Dig her up. No, getting back to the old king today, mate, he's really gone up in my expectations.
Oh, well, I think it really has shown the importance of the monarchy, hasn't it?
It has, mate. I miss my old queen. I can't get it out of my head that she's gone, but old Charlie did a good job today, mate.
Thanks, Roy. Let's go to Steve in Walsall. Steve.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Starmer, he must be deranged because he's been quoted as saying he's not going to step down. He wants to look after the future of the country. Yes. Number one, what future has this country got? Well, what they've done since they've been in power.
I know, he says he wants to stop chaos. He's caused chaos.
Anywhere else in the world. When the highest taxed in the world, I've got friends of mine that have finished in business because I can't afford to open the doors.
Do you know what the tax rate is in Russia?
Everything I'm paying.
Do you know what the tax rate is? Do you know what the tax rate is in...
Steve, do you know what the tax rate is in Russia?
You what?
Do you know what the tax rate is in Russia?
It's more than this country, I know.
No, I don't think it is.
13%.
It used to be 4% this country in Nelson's era, and that's when we had serious wars and stuff. 4%.
Yeah, well, income tax was meant to be temporary.
Yeah, it's meant to be a temporary.
It is temporary.
Thing.
It has to be voted through every year.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Ridiculous.
58 years ago, my late mother said to me, "You're coming up to voting age now, and so I'm telling you, no matter what you do, never vote Labour." I says, because they're no good, they'll take all your money off you and waste it. Now, I've had all these years to study the Labour Party, and my late mother, was she right? Yes, she was, because they're no good.
Did you vote Tory in Walsall?
No. I stopped voting because I hadn't got much confidence in the Tories either.
What a surprise! Because they've not been sparkling, have they?
I mean, what would you vote for, in the future? Have you got new ideas that you'd vote for?
Well, I've got to give Reform a chance, ain't I? I mean, what is the matter with Starmer? All these by-elections, I mean, Reform swept aside, and he's still saying that he's right. The trouble is with him, he thinks he's the only one what's right, and everybody else is wrong.
Yeah, it's like a bit like a sociopath, isn't it? They've got no self-awareness.
Yeah, I love that. I take full responsibility. No, let's not do Nelson Mandela. He stands up. I take full responsibility. In what way are you taking full responsibility?
That means resign. Full responsibility means you resign.
He stands up and he says, I hear the British people who have all voted for Nigel Farage. I hear you. I'm going to be at the heart of Europe.
Yeah.
What are you hearing?
Yeah.
What are you hearing?
We are an island of strangers. Oh, no, sorry, I've been told we're not an island of strangers.
Labour voters have voted for Nigel Farage, and you have concluded that that is evidence they're pro-Europeans. Yeah. I mean, it's just madness. Complete madness.
Steve?
There was a survey some months ago. The survey found that every 47 minutes, a millionaire was leaving this country with all his millions. Now, the millionaire fraternity, the tax they pay, according to it, they are responsible for 1/3 of the government's tax.
Yeah, the top 1% taxpayers pay 1/3 of the tax.
And that's what we talked about last week. The fact
give us some statistics on that. So people are saying,
more welfare
people are saying
tax.
those with the broadest shoulders should bear the highest cost.
Yeah.
Explain why you believe they are already.
Well, you know, as the statistics we talked about, you know, the top 1% of income earners, you know, the ones that earn high amount of money, or over 80,000, I think actually it's £60,000 or
which is unusual, isn't it? You wouldn't think that would be the
which
top
is not
1%.
a lot indeed, but they pay over 30% of the tax bill.
So to be in the top 10% richest people in the UK, what do you have to earn? About 50 grand?
I think so. I need to double check the current figures, obviously, with Starmer and
because the big problem is people think that because of the level of inflation, because of how expensive everything is in this country, because the punitive tax levels, people think that 40 grand a year isn't a lot of money, but actually it puts you easily in the top third.
Yeah, and you know, it's the sad reality. And what can a 40k salary get you nowadays?
Very little.
You can't live in London on that. It doesn't, and they don't raise the threshold, so you're being stealth taxed as well.
So indeed, that's what we call fiscal drag. So
when
when your wages rise, but they keep the tax brackets the same, so you actually pay more tax, even though
now people are on quite a low amount are in the high tax bracket when they get to you know, not that much in this economy.
So
it's absolutely shocking, because the big problem is people are out there shouting tax the rich. The reality is, in this country, what is the rich? 45 grand a year.
Yeah, I mean, you know, beware what you say, because it might be you.
No, there has been a time. There has been a time when the top 10% of wage earners were rich. That time is long gone.
But then the other point, as I said, is that the rich people create business opportunities. I'd rather work for my own living than live on a handout by the government.
Yeah, but
if we're pushing people away, if we're pushing millionaires away from creating business, we are becoming an island of idle people who just sit there and expect the government to give them
because
money.
what you're saying is, what the truth of the matter is that you need to complain about opportunity. You need to say, what is my opportunity to succeed? Now, punitive taxes, high government regulation, a government inspector for everything undermines your opportunity. But what we tell people is, you are poor because he is rich. And that simply isn't true.
But the thing is, I mean, if you're saying 60 grand puts you in the top 1%, that means there's loads of people who never work and never will work who are in the top 1% of earners, just on dole money, on universal credit.
Yeah,
if you've got 4 kids and you've got a house paid for, you're on about 80 to 100 grand in London. So you're well above in the top 1% of rich people in the country being on benefits.
Wow, you can be in the top 1%.
A lot of
if you're on benefits.
I was reading, I think if you're a single mother with, I think, 4 kids and some of them have SEND, I think you are on £4,000 or £5,000 a month.
Yeah. Is that without your house?
Yeah, probably.
That's without your house. So you add that on, that's another couple of grand. So 7 grand, that's about 90 grand a year.
Yeah, but remember, Asher, your statistic, when you're talking about receiving £4,000 a month, you have to earn 7 grand a month to get 4 grand a month.
And also
so
your
that
housing.
That would be 84 grand, wouldn't it?
So why, you know, people go out to work to pay for that?
So 4 grand a month would be like earning 84 grand.
So we're working hard to pay tax to make people who never worked in the top 1% of riches in this country. And on that bombshell, we'll carry on. Thanks, Steve, for that call from Walsall. We're going to be talking to John, Andrea, Robert and Paula.
But we've still got slots available. We want people to call in.
Plenty of slots. Matron, it's Talk with Andre and Ash back after this.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
We were slightly wrong before the break. You need to get 67,000 to be in the top 10%. But let's just be clear, if you are getting 4,000 a month in benefits, you'd have to earn $7,000 a month. You'd have to earn 84 grand a year. So you'd be in the top 7%.
And plus your housing, which is about another 25 grand a year.
Amazing. John is in Essex. John, you're on Talk.
Hi boys, what's going on? I'm not from Essex.
John from West Yorkshire, sorry.
Well, it's down the road.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Nigel Farage, really, and his handling of the $5 million donation. I'm not really happy with it, boys, if I'm honest with you.
Why not? Didn't he deserve a gift for 27 years of campaigning for Brexit?
Well, maybe so, but, I mean, you know, if he's under the investigation and...
But he wasn't a politician at the time.
Apparently. I mean, I find it bizarre. The parliamentary, well, hang on. The parliamentary authorities are saying we want to investigate him before he was an MP for breaching parliamentary standards.
How does that work?
Well, how can you breach parliamentary standards if you're not in Parliament?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, but I mean, you know, if it's happening, then just show us the receipts, show us the invoices, put it to bed.
Yeah, but hang on a second. But this is like the parliamentary authorities investigating you.
Yeah.
And you go, well, why are you investigating me? It was for his security. It's not a political donation. It wasn't given to a politician. I just find the whole thing completely mad.
I mean, a lot of people are saying it's going to have the Trump effect and the opposite effect.
No, what John's doing, and with respect, John, is this. You're saying, well, if they're investigating it, it must be serious. Welcome to modern Britain, baby.
Yeah.
This is lawfare.
Really? Yeah. No, not really. What I'm saying is, if they want to investigate him and he can't avoid the investigation, just show the receipts and just...
Because all they're going to do... You know what they're going to do? They're going to leak the... I mean, do you remember the investigation into Boris Johnson by the Parliamentary Standards Committee? They leaked the result before they interviewed him.
Oh, really?
They said we found him guilty, and now we're going to get him to come in to explain his guilt.
Do you not think, John, that they'll try everything to scupper Farage?
Oh,
you know?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And this is just something.
No question.
This is just sort of one of the things.
I think what you're doing, John. I think your problem, and I'm not being critical of this. I think you assume that the system is far less bent than it actually is. 20 years ago, you'd have been completely right. Yeah. All they want to do is they want to go through all of his files so they can hand them over to the Labour Party so they can find something to do him over for. And believe me, they will find it. If he did, can I tell you, if he did a hula dance at that committee, they'd find him guilty.
But don't you think, I mean, it was a disgrace that they took his security. This is a guy who's in the number one slot for becoming Prime Minister, and the etiquette is, and the security etiquette is, you give him the full security of equivalent of Prime Minister. They took it off him, and why did they take it off him? Maybe for the same reason that Trump got crappy security men. Something might happen, you know, it puts him at risk. And
he was categorised as imminent threat to life.
Yeah,
grade A.
That's the main story, I think, with this. And he had to sort his own security out.
Look, they are desperate for somebody to kill Farage and then go, oh, well, never mind, we did our best.
Of course, let's move on, that's it, yeah.
Imagine all the celebrations on Twitter.
I'd say, right, OK, obviously, the left and all that want to sort of, throw me under the bus and sort of, jeer and point fingers, well, if it were me, I'd be like, right, there's your proof. That's it.
Well, remember the story. Remember the story.
You've got nothing on me.
Remember the story about Tommy Robinson when a prison officer came in and said, "Listen, I'm ex Royal Marine or something. I'm going to come in 10 minutes. Whatever I say, do not leave this cell." So Tommy went, "What the hell?" And he said, they came back, 5 of them, and they said, right, the warden's moving you to A wing. And Tommy went, I'm not leaving this cell. If you don't leave this cell, you'll be prosecuted, you'll be arrested. And Tommy said, if you try and take me out of this cell, I'm going to fight you for it. And they went away, shut the door to the cell, and that one of the blokes came back and he said they were going to put you on the wing with the jihadis, sharing a bedroom with a jihadi. They were going to kill him.
Wow.
Fact.
That's insane, isn't it?
Crazy. That is.
Lucy Connolly had a bad time in prison as well.
My other point, just briefly, is, and I've got to say this because look, no one likes Andy Burnham up north.
No.
The king in the north has come from down south.
Yeah. That's
no
what
one
we've
thinks
heard.
that up here at all.
So so you don't think it's looking good for him then?
Well,
To become the Prime Minister?
He wouldn't win in Yorkshire.
No. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But I mean, just this whole King in the North business. The only people that think that are people down south.
I think that's probably right. I think that's probably right. The Labour Party's so out of touch. Also, the other thing is, when he said, we need to end a situation where special advisors are being dropped into safe seats. Hang on. You were Chris Smith's special advisor. You lived in London, and then you got Lee, which was a safe seat with a majority of 25,000.
Typical
He was dropped in as a special advisor. And when he says that he's from the area, by the way, he actually grew up in Culcheth, which is a middle-class part of Warrington.
Mike, what do you think about Farage and this?
Well, I think the conversation was very interesting because I think most people think £5 million is a lot of money.
Yeah.
And
security.
We don't get £5 million. I don't get £5 million as a gift. So
do you not?
I think, sadly not. Maybe you've got something in the bank, but it's a lot of money, and I think it risks putting him maybe out of touch with the people, which is why people are a bit worked up about it. The reality is, we need to actually, if you're in politics, I think you need to be transparent, and I accept that it was before he was an MP, and I do believe that there's some credence there in you saying they want to release all his files so they can find something. But you have to understand...
Yeah, but there are offences of bribery.
It wasn't hidden, was it?
Hang on a second, everyone. There are offences of bribery. There are offences of misconduct in public office. There are offences of money laundering. Those are the correct offences to investigate him for. The fact that parliamentary standards are investigating him for what he did before he was an MP is literally just because it's Labour.
Well, he wasn't in public office, was he?
I agree, but I think it's a bad look. I think you have to understand, once you're into politics, you've got to be careful with how you declare things.
It's a bad look because it's not true.
It was out in the open. I remember when they said this Harborne guy donated the party this money, so it wasn't like it was hidden. And they knew all about this.
I mean, also, the other thing is, the cost of this security is crippling. I mean, I've got it now. The protesters now want to attack me. And I'd have to take a bodyguard with me if I went out in public. You're talking about what, £300 a day per guard, 2 guards, the car £1,000 a day. That means literally for one car, you might be talking about what, £2,000 a day.
Well, and meals and hotels.
And by the way, day and night.
Yeah.
Because they only do 12 hours, so it could be £4,000 a day.
Yeah. I think security is a real issue as our politics becomes more polarised.
The state should be providing for him, shouldn't they, as a prime minister?
Well, just generally, I think politicians now put themselves at great risk, sadly, and we've had 2 MPs killed in the last 10 years.
Well, especially Farage is the most threatened MP there is. Oh, sorry, I forgot you there. Sorry, John.
No, I'll tell you what is a sad state of affairs. We're talking about, not being able to be sort of openly Jewish on the street. I think equally, you can't actually be openly right-wing on the street.
No, you can't.
Either.
No, you can't. And as Asher said, the reason that he's okay on the streets is people can't tell he's Jewish. Although I did have somebody walk up to me in Slough Tesco's who would have attacked you if you'd have been there. Mind you, you'd have probably beaten him up. He didn't look that big. But
what? You really? Where was that?
The
deli section. Where was he hanging around?
Well, he wasn't hanging around the deli section, was he? Because there was nothing he could buy there. If I'm being totally honest.
Anyway.
All right, lads. Well, cheers. Anyway.
Nice one. Cheers, John. 03444991000. Andrea in Essex. All right, Andrea. Morning.
Hello there. I'm a bit scared of being out of my depth here, but can I just make 2 points?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, the first one is I am terrified that we are all subject to governmental social engineering.
Yeah. We are. I mean, there is department that is a PSYOPs department. Yeah. And what do you think? What's your latest? Why have you come to this conclusion now?
I've just come into the kitchen and Googled in terms of physical science, because I know you're really bright at that stuff, but. Social engineering is a term which has been used to refer to efforts in influencing particular attitudes and social behaviours on a large scale.
Breaking. Are you hands-free, Andrew? Are you breaking up a bit?
I am. Yeah.
Can you pick up? Use the hand.
Okay, so social engineering is a term which has been used to refer to efforts in influencing particular attitudes and social behaviours on a large scale. This is often undertaken by governments, but may be also carried out by mass media, academia or private groups in order to produce desired characteristics any target population. Now, I really feel, I'm terrified that I really think that since Labour came in, this is what we're being subjected to. And especially now that they tried to cancel the local elections.
Oh, yeah.
Now
They try to stop juries and they have nudging departments. Yeah, no, I mean, this is all what goes on now these days. What do you think about this?
I think I was going to try and get in digital IDs in some shape or form, and this has been great opportunity, actually.
Facial recognition cameras.
It is. I mean, this is the slow erosion of liberty, sadly, in our country. And
Big brother.
you know, we've had a great victory, actually, convincing the government to move from mandatory to voluntary digital IDs, and that's a start. But they're planning to introduce them again. So we've got
facial recognition is effectively enforced digital ID because your face will be your.
Well,
ID.
anything. I mean, banning social media for under 16s.
Yeah.
How would they enforce that? You'd only enforce it by submitting a digital ID to prove that you're over the age of 16.
They're Trojan horse to get everyone to declare their
Sadly,
ID.
it is, and we've done a lot of work with the Consumer Choice Centre on that being a Trojan horse. But the sad reality is this is all just a backway entrance for surveillance. I mean, all your data
social
handled by
credit system.
Well, I mean, all your data in the hands of the government. I don't even trust the government with money spending, let alone with my personal.
They mess up their computer systems
data
all the time.
So
the problem is, as I've said previously, with your data. Look, even if you don't believe the government will spy on you, which they may well not do, they'll leave the pen drive on the bus.
Yeah.
Right? They've done
look
that
at the
loads of
post
times.
office scandal. There's loads of scandals like that, where it all cocks up and, the Chinese will be trying to get into our systems. It's the more you put on, the more dangerous it is for future
Indeed,
events.
and then even if you have safeguards, it's very tricky to enforce them and make sure. I mean, if you put a safeguard, for instance, saying every citizen has the right to see what information is being held by the state, how are you able to do that? I mean, you've got subject access requests, you can FOI, but these safeguards to implement are so unrealistic at the moment, especially with the size of the government. How would you know what department is looking at?
I've got to be honest with you, when you start subject access requests in public authorities, they do not like it.
No.
They do not like it at all.
And the debanking scandal, obviously, that's where Nigel found out with using subject access.
Andrea, just a matter of interest, you said you were a bit nervous coming on the show. Look, we genuinely try in this studio to make a show that everybody can join in on. We don't think people are stupid, we just think that some people are busy.
Do you feel more nervous now or less nervous?
No, less nervous, but I just feel I don't know anywhere near as much as you both do.
Well, of course not. No, I mean, that's natural.
You do make me laugh. I love you. Before I go, I just wanted to say on Angela Rayner.
Yes.
I was born in a council flat in Coventry, family of 8, and I am much cleverer than she is.
Yeah, we can tell. Because you can actually speak English properly with the right words in order.
She's just their pet council house girl.
Yes.
Well, I'd be a much better pet council house girl, I can tell you.
Have you thought of running in the councils for any of the parties? Or
I've been asked that a couple of times, but
come on.
Seriously, I think she's as rough as a rat.
No, actually, Andrea, on a serious note, we've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people who watch and listen to this show who've ended up as councillors. In fact, we've got no bloody callers tonight because they're all at council meetings.
You're obviously quite successful because you've gone from Coventry to Essex. All right, it's Essex, but still it's up from Coventry, isn't it? Gone up in the world.
Oh, dear me. God help me. And I also knew poverty and going without and all of that stuff. And,
I mean,
she got, she did a bit.
She didn't go without. She got a fair bit, I understand, when she was younger.
Andrea, I would just say, if you are worried about something, take part. Don't let them win. You go out, you vote, you stand as a candidate. Put your point across, put your perspective.
And you grew up in a council house with a family of 8, they'll like that.
There are political parties now where the jobs don't just go to the usual suspects.
They need real people.
And this is the problem. We haven't been having enough candidates where they just put anyone just to fill in as paper candidates. And then they get elected and they don't actually want to be there. So we want people who are interested, who care about these issues.
I had a friend of mine who ran as a paper candidate in Windsor and defeated the council leader, and the council leader was called Mary Rose. So we always thought she'd gone down like the Mary Rose.
What do you do, Andrea, for a job? Right.
Well, I took early retirement.
Yeah.
I worked in children's services, and
okay.
it was so broken. It was so broken. And then in terms of the rape gang stuff, I'm telling you, you can call social workers anything in the world that you want to, but I'm telling you, those people, I know it's easy to say, but I'm telling you, they would have never got away with it on my watch.
No.
And where were you, in Essex or in Coventry? Is that where you worked?
Coventry, but not in Coventry. I work for a neighbouring authority.
People in children's services tend to not live locally, don't they, for security reasons?
Yeah, absolutely. A neighbouring authority, but they would never have got away with that on my watch because I called people out. I've been in court. I've given evidence.
What about your colleagues, though? How many good people make up? How many people would let people get away with it? Would turn a blind eye?
Most of them are kids, Asher. Most of them are straight out of uni, straight into the job.
But somebody said to me when we met the trade unions when I became political advisor at the Royal Borough of Windsor and Maidenhead, and what they said was the new computer system that Tony Blair had brought in had made it impossible to actually go and visit young people because you spent that much time filling in forms because after every visit you had to fill in a form and it took 4 hours.
But you do that in your own time. You don't get paid for that. There's no overtime. There's no, you can't even take time off in lieu. You do that in your own time. You come home and you work your socks off. But most of them are young people, mainly women, 21 to 25, broken.
A lot will be working from home now as well. Probably.
Also, are they just do-gooders who believe that because you've got dark skin, you must be an angel?
No comment.
Well, there you have it. Anyway, we've got to go to a break.
Yeah, thanks. Call us again, Andrew. That was very enlightening and a great call. It's Talk with Andre and Ash, and Mike is here with us going through the papers. We'll be back after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is a late show with Odd. What are you doing?
Just relaxing, man. Just talking about glass-bottom boats.
Rather than Big Bottom Girls.
Yeah.
Isn't that a song?
What do you prefer?
That song, Big Bottom Girls.
Fat Bottom Girls by Queen, yeah.
Speaking of that, did you see Nicki Minaj complimenting Kemi Badenoch?
No, what's that?
2 days ago. Nicki Minaj, the very famous...
yeah, she's got a big bomb.
Yeah, indeed.
Who is Nicki Minaj? A pop star or something?
She's a rapper, a very big one. She big songs like Anaconda, and
Anaconda, baby. Anaconda, man.
And she was very praiseworthy of Kemi Badenoch.
She's a rap singer.
I've got to be honest with you.
She says the words.
They filmed Kemi Badenoch from the back during the King's Speech debate, and I thought she was, she had a large but pert bum. if I'm being honest.
Is that one of her things, is it? In the action, rap singing?
Well, but Nikki, yes. Yeah, I mean...
It was large but pert. It wasn't... Because let's be honest, everyone, we've all met girls at university who like horse riding, you know, with those big droopy bums, and you think that's dreadful. Wow. By the way, on the subject of Kemi Badenoch, nobody hated the Conservative Party under Rishi Sunak more than me. No, actually, that's possible that there were people who hated more than me, but thanks so much. But I have to say, I think Kemi is doing quite well. Yes.
At what?
At being Conservative leader.
Very well. She's really cutting through.
All right, let's go to Terry in Dover then.
Terry. Morning,
As
Terry.
I open my can.
Terry.
Andre, Ash, good evening.
All right, morning.
I just wanted to say something quite basic and simple here. All the kerfuffle around the Labour Party and leaders and who's going to be leader, it doesn't matter who's leader. It's not going to make any difference whatsoever. They lost their traditional heartland.
I completely agree.
Because people are angry about their taxpayer money being wasted on...
Oh, don't pour it like that, Mike.
They're just basically rearranging the furniture on the Titanic.
The problem is that they're the first political party to have sacked their own voters. They don't want the Labour and trade union movement. They want, you know, the university class. They want the trans, the trans...
Didn't the Tories sack their own voters? They sort of did it. That's why they were kicked out.
Yeah, I suppose so.
They're all sacking. The Uniparty sack their own voters, and that's what's letting these other
But they don't like Labour. Terry is right. Labour do not like the sort of people that built the Labour Party.
Well, they hate them. They hate them. They look down on them with this disgust.
The key thing is that voters are sick and tired of their money being wasted on these things. And you know, all these people from Labour saying that, we need change, they don't... say exactly what change it is, but
no. What they're saying, Terry.
Yeah.
Terry, what they're saying is, we are right, but there are two problems. Point number one, we have not done as much. We've not done it as fast as we could have. Point number two, we failed to communicate it. Mike Salem and I had a discussion before. I don't know if you heard it. We were talking about energy security. And I said, but there was an energy security bill. Yes, but the energy security bill does the complete opposite. When people in the media are saying the only way to bring down energy bills, the only way to guarantee our security is to start drilling North Sea oil and to start fracking, Ed Miliband brings in the energy security bill that bans both of them by law.
For even next government ministers to do, although they will reverse it.
Yeah, I mean, he's saying that obviously wind and solar are the energy security.
Yes.
Even though fossil fuel, he doesn't agree with it. But
we're buying it though from Norway.
Two fields in the North Sea. Rosneft is one, whatever, and the other one. I mean, are they going to go ahead now? I think they are, aren't they?
Are they? I thought not. I thought he's doubling down. All the other countries that were like him have backed down, but he's doubling down with.
Well, we haven't got the energy security bill in its final form. Is the honest answer, but it will certainly ban fracking, and it will ban what's described as new oil exploration.
Yeah, new ones. Yeah.
Well, and I don't know whether it will ban North Sea, but what is described as the energy security bill will prohibit those measures that would make energy security and energy independence possible.
But then it will be kicked out with the next government in 3 years.
Now, what they're saying is, they're saying that the net zero thing is brilliant. We've just failed to do it fast enough, and we've failed to explain it properly.
Yeah, but they all say that we're only 2 years in, we've got 3 years to go, give us a chance to bring these things in. But the other thing is, how are they going to do? They're not going to deal with welfare, are they? I mean, this latest thing about the...
They can't, the backbenchers won't allow it.
Non-clinical depression, there's so much of that. They need rigorous GP examinations.
It'll be like the 70s again. They'll just go until they fail and we have to be bailed out. And that's what will happen.
Do you think so?
Yeah, they'll just spend until they can't spend anymore.
What do you think, Mike?
What, Dennis Healey?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we talked about it last week, and, the size of the state is growing at such vast rate where we are borrowing vast amount of money. And we talked about last week when someone said, well, what about bonds? Aren't they all just Ponzi schemes? Well, sadly, they're not Ponzi schemes because this is all government borrowing. This is actually real money.
And the vast majority is to pay the interest debt on the debt.
Around 10-12% of it is just to pay the debt back, the interest back on the debt.
Well, in February, it was 12 billion of the 13 billion we borrowed was to pay the debt.
But then again, why are we growing the size of the state? Because we're pushing away people who can actually create opportunities for people to actually work. And
well, they tried to knock 5 billion, which was nothing anyway, and the backbenchers revolted. So they're never going to get that through.
And then that costed more money. So it's a very poignant issue. Welfare
is a big one, isn't it? I mean, we're talking about probably doing something about that because the cost of the triple lock is enormous. But I mean, they're not too bothered about pensioners, are they? Because
we're going to have to work till we're 75, you know, and you're going to have to work till you're about 90.
Well, I probably won't get a pension. No, to be honest, I think the pension. The current pension scheme will fail in the next 10-15 years because it's just unsustainable.
I mean, it's already basically bankrupt. The money goes in when you pay towards your pension. All you're paying for is next month's pension payments. Indeed. That's all you're doing.
I'm sorry to say, when you know, most people think that if you're paying a pension, the government will actually put it in a bank and save it for you to retire. No, that's not sadly how it works. The government takes it and spends it on all other things.
Yeah, that's right.
Believe it or not, that's how it started. Apparently, national insurance was an insurance scheme when it was first introduced in something like 1921, or whenever it was. But the first Labour government changed it. So apparently, for 5 or 6 years, it was actually a pension fund.
But this is the thing, why don't we let people take control of their pension plans? If I want to start, you know, saving for my pension from the age of 25, 26, I should be entitled to do so.
But it's exactly the same, Mike, as when we talk about redistributing wealth. They're not talking about distributing it from rich to poor or from old to young. They're talking about redistributing it from rich to government and from old to government.
Indeed.
That's what they're planning to redistribute. They're saying, as long as we tax the rich and give it to public sector workers, the poor are better off.
They're even dipping into private pensions now, saying they can take private pensions and invest in it.
Yeah, it's a serious...
Whoa! Sorry! Wait a minute, I think his heart monitor stopped. Kevin, have we got to take a little breaky, and then our friend, our lefty friend, Kevin in Basingstoke is talk with Andre.
He's a communist.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Okay, this is the Late Show with Andre Walker, Asher Gould and Mike Salem, who has decided to co-host this segment as well. Well done.
Well, thank you. It's been great pleasure, and actually some really good conversations, and to encourage people to actually speak what they...
We still haven't had any bassoon or violin questions, because he's an expert. He plays in orchestras, any bassoon or any other.
Sadly not.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to Kevin in Basingstoke, talking about playing the bassoon. Here we go. Come on, Kevin, let's hear it.
Let's hear your notes.
Well, I disagree with everything that I've heard over the last 20 minutes, especially from Andrea. She said that she's more intelligent than Angela Rayner.
Yeah, but so was my lunch.
Yeah, everything.
They both do the same job. They're both work in social care. Angela Rayner looked after her mother with schizophrenia and a seriously ill son.
Who she doesn't live with.
Well, she did at the time.
No, but remember, right, her son's like 14 or something. She sold him the house on the basis she never goes to visit him. If that was official.
Look, her son was seriously ill and she looked after him. I mean, and also...
Yeah, but how many people, Kevin, go... look, my son's got a lot of money because of NHS medical negligence. I get that. I've sold him my house because I never go to the house and he lives in it. But you never go. No, I never visit him.
You shouldn't. I don't think you should bring your children in.
Where did you get that from?
Well, that's what she said, wasn't it? She said, I don't live in the house anymore. I don't go there.
She does go to the house. She doesn't sleep there.
All right. She doesn't sleep in the house with her son in.
Also, she said that Labour tried to cancel the election. They never tried to cancel the elections. It was up to the councils.
No, they gave the councils. They told councils you can cancel the elections if you want. Well, come on.
Yeah.
If you're Essex County Council, give us a second. If you're Essex County Council and you know you're all going to be beaten by reform, then obviously you're going to take up Labour on cancelling the election.
You're in denial, Kevin.
Well, I mean, it would do them a favour because reform-run councils they're a right shambles.
You see, it all comes out in the end.
There was one of the guys that just won the election a few days ago or a week ago. He quit already, and they've got to have another break.
Well, there was a guy who was an online.
Well, he's got a conviction.
There was a guy who was an online porn star. My view is it takes all types. Let's not discriminate. And if you want to get out your wang for an audience on the internet, I'm good with that.
But then this relates to the point I'm saying. The problem is that there are so many posts to fill in, and you just put in any candidate, or actually people who are passionate about politics should go in and make a
name for himself.
The big problem is, I mean, if you look at that guy who said the reason for the flooding around Britain was gay marriage. Right, let's just be clear. That bloke was a Tory councillor when he said it, and then he defected to UKIP and got into every national newspaper because he said, UKIP councillor has said this. Right, he'd said it as a Tory councillor 6 months earlier. It only came out. So what's actually happening quite often with a lot of these people being hounded out of office, if they were Labour, if they were Conservative, if they were Lib Dem, if they were SNP, they'd be completely fine. It's only because they're Reform.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
every day you hear about stories that are coming from Reform councillors. Not just this one. It's not just one bad apple. And I don't know why people say, oh, we want a change. We need Reform UK in power. They're just a bunch of Tories. They're the same as the Conservatives.
Well, the Tories aren't. The Conservatives aren't Tories. But who would you like then as your leader? Would you like Prime Minister Rayner? Is that who you want?
And then, come on, I don't live with the child.
Who do you want as your new? Do you want Starmer to stay? Do you want Burnham?
Nigel Farage said that he thought that Liz Truss' budget was brilliant, the best budget he'd seen since the 80s.
It was.
That was absolutely terrible.
Well, it was made terrible by the Bank of England selling the gilts.
450 billion off pensions. Mortgages went through the roof. Rents went through the roof.
Yeah, all right. But who is who is the great person who's going to lead us in the Labour Party government?
No-brainer.
Is that who you want, Angela Rayner?
It's a no-brainer.
Andy Burnham.
You want Burnham? Why do you want Burnham?
Yeah, I think he's going to make it a bit more equal. I mean, it's such an unequal country. I mean, you was talking about tax. The top 10% own 43% of the wealth, and the bottom 50% only own 9% of the wealth.
Yeah, well, that's how the cookie crumbles. But I mean,
actually, I want to come on that.
Hang on. Kevin, let Mike respond.
You're right, and that's happening because of government intervention. I mean, had we actually allowed people to work
and prosper and keep their own money, we wouldn't be in that position. Yeah. And markets have proven, right, time after time, they are the fairest way of exchanging things. Yeah. The problem with having a government is that when they take your money in, they decide how to distribute it, and when they do so, there's a cost to it, and that would not be fair on everyone else.
Look, when you have tax cuts, it benefits the rich mainly, and poor. If you don't raise money through taxes, then poorer people they'll have poor education.
Yeah, but Kevin, the age of big government. The age of big government since Tony Blair, social mobility has decreased.
Yeah, Labour Party take the grammar schools away, which was the way working class lads could actually raise themselves and to become Prime Minister like John Major, like Margaret Thatcher. It's the Labour Party that pull up the drawbridge.
Well,
now they're all from Eton and Harrow and posh schools.
At a faster rate. It's not. There's no such thing as trickle-down economics. It's trickle-up economics.
No, we're not if you kill all the grammar schools and the steps to get there.
But the reality is trickle-down economics was a joke designed to disparage Margaret Thatcher's economic policy. What she said, she didn't say that by making rich people very rich, you make the poor richer. She said economic freedom makes everybody richer. She didn't believe in trickle-down economics. It's an insult.
She believed you should buy your council house like Rayner did.
It's like if I sat there with Gordon Brown and asked him to justify the perpetual boom theory, right? Now, I've disparagingly said that Gordon Brown believed in the perpetual boom theory. That is, if you take an economic boom, borrow money, and the government borrows money to stoke further economic growth, you can create a perpetual boom. He never called it the perpetual boom theory, right? It's a disparaging comment. Margaret Thatcher did not believe. Margaret Thatcher did not believe that if you continue to regulate poor people, you continue to tax poor people, you continue to subjugate poor people, but create billionaires, there will be a trickle down of wealth. Yeah. She said creating economic freedom for everybody will make everyone richer.
She let people buy the council houses. Rayner was the one who bought a council house and then pulled the drawbridge up in that case.
Yes, she did. Yeah, she should have given that back.
Council house.
Eh?
You can still buy your council house.
No, she pulled up the drawbridge. I mean, she's made it much more difficult. I think you get much less of a discount. She definitely changed it.
So there should be.
Well, she got advantage out of it.
Labour built 5 million council houses after the Second World War. Yeah. Margaret Thatcher came along and sold half of them off.
To the people living in, the working class people living in them, and they should have. She gave it to the councils, and they decided not to build them.
Because what we had discovered was this: these town planners. This is the bit that people forget about the council house sales. These town planners who wanted everybody to live in a tower block like in the Soviet Union, right? What was discovered was if you do not own your own home, if you do not have a sense of place, if you do not have a sense of community, if you cannot customise these places yourself, you have no pride in them and they become sink estates. The reason why the big estates of Moscow, the big estates of Glasgow suffer from exactly the same social problems is because of what they are. Margaret Thatcher realised you could never build a community unless people had a stake in that community, and that was buying your council house and knocking down the tower blocks. You know, if you look at Erno Goldfinger, who, by the way, was such a bad architect that they named a Bond villain after him. If you look at Erno Goldfinger's idea, which was that everybody would live in exactly the same shoeboxes in a tower block, people were jumping off them in unprecedented numbers. It's easy to say
I like Trellick Tower, though.
It's easy now to, which he designed, it's easy now to say that the sale of council houses was a mistake because there's a lack of housing, but she wasn't doing it in order to increase the housing supply. No. She was doing it to give people a sense of place.
But didn't the councils get the money to build? They were meant to build other council houses.
Yeah,
by the way, Goldfinger was Ian Fleming's next door neighbour in Hampstead Garden suburb. They didn't get on, which is why he named the Bond villain Goldfinger.
Yeah, because he built that awful house.
Goldfinger.
People can't afford to buy a house. In the 80s, you could buy a house about 3 times your wage. Now it's 10 times.
Yeah, and that's...
we're not all lucky enough to get £5 million from a crypto billionaire to buy a house.
100%, and you're 100% right. But who was the Secretary of State for Housing over the last 3 years? It was Angela Rayner.
No.
And she failed to ease planning law. We needed to build so many houses. I mean, if we deport every single person that came to this country from 2000, myself included,
you'd be in a lot better condition.
You'd still be short of 2.5 million
we wouldn't
houses.
have you here.
Yeah,
but I mean, overall,
but you'd still be short of 2.5 million houses.
Yeah.
And you know, successive governments have failed to build.
It's amazing, isn't it? Sadiq Khan's policy on immigration, if we followed it, he would have to throw 50,000 Londoners out of their houses to accommodate these people, because you get priority on the housing list if you are a refugee. OK, let's go to Paula.
Thanks, Kev. Paula in Halifax, give us a ring again, maybe tomorrow, Kev. We're on from 10. Paula.
Good evening, boys.
Morning.
Good evening, girl.
Good evening. What you two up to?
Just doing a show, like.
What do you mean, what are we up to?
You're watching us.
Like, it's not my personal phone line.
Mischief again.
Yeah, well, you know, it's what we do. Anyway, another minute, please, Paula. We're going to go another minute, if you could just fill for a minute.
Come on, Paula.
Say something for a minute.
Come on.
Yes, well, actually, Ash, I was ringing up to say you look very dapper tonight.
Oh, God.
Well, no, Vanessa in makeup did my hair like this, my hair. Because I did What Just Happened. That's coming out tomorrow at 9 p.m. Me, Samara and Kev. What Just Happened?
No word from Team Menopause.
Sorry, Paula.
Andre.
Yeah.
And you're not looking too bad either.
Oh, thank you.
There you go. What about Mike? He's quite tasty, isn't he? Nice young man. Very nice.
I'm thinking when Mike, look down for a bit.
Lovely pendant.
Look down. Wow. When he looks down his page, he looks a bit like Tsar Nicholas II.
Oh.